kind of shocked. I'm shocked to find out 50% of this group can watch an episode of Saturday Night Live.
I watch clips.
For me, it's
watch it out of like weird tradition. Like I watched it when I was a kid. Like I can watch it now.
For me,
I wanted to see what Rami Malek was going to do.
I think the cast right now is actually better than it's been in a long time.
There was a
In my
long
opinion,
period of total dog shit for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Which were, I think,
sucks.
but the reason that I watch it is because, like, 1 out of maybe 15 sketches are so fucking funny. Like, they hit it, every once in a while they hit one that's, like, so funny.
When they lean
And there's
into-
no way I'm gonna see that unless I just watch them all and then...
It seems like when they lean
a lot of
into
them
absurdity, it's a
I
lot
watch
better.
half and I skip it because they're bad.
Yeah.
Anytime they're doing political stuff, it's
You can
real,
pretty much skip those,
real
yeah.
shit.
Yeah, didn't they have one skit that was just someone dressed up as Hillary Clinton, like playing Hallelujah?
Yeah.
And, like, no joke?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're
did-
bad.
I did like the Jim Carrey playing Biden just so he could say the last line at the end.
Oh, the loser.
Yeah, loser. It was like multiple sketches just so Jim Carrey could say loser.
Yeah, I remember seeing that
I
and thinking,
appreciate
I
that.
thought
That's a
he
payoff.
really didn't. He like made no effort to be Joe Biden-esque. Is the only thing. Like it was like just
he has a
just
facial
being
movements,
Jim
though. He had
Carrey.
like facial movements.
Yeah, I don't remember it that well.
That looks like Biden on your shirt today.
Yeah, it pretty much.
Reality.
Yeah, it is.
Death's door ass
It
motherfucking
also-
president.
Yeah.
It also reminds
Are we
me.
on?
Yeah, we're straight.
Yeah, Joe Biden is a bad president.
And like actually decrepit. Like a decrepit body.
Yeah.
This is maybe the most catering to our viewer base that we've
Is it?
It's shocking though. It is like very shocking that we're like racked by plague, and then like a pretty good illustration of plague is like the leader of the country.
I mean, it's appropriate.
You stick him on a white horse, and it's like you know who that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pestilence.
Yeah.
Come to usher in the apocalypse.
It's crazy how like when Bernie Sanders was running, the biggest issue about him was his age.
I know.
And it's like no one gives a shit about age. Like Trump is about that.
They're all
that
the
old.
same
And,
age.
like Biden is like
Hillary's
the
like
same age.
5
And, like,
years younger
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
Like they're all like the oldest.
All people-
Well, because really what we're talking about here is image. Look.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Bernie looks like
Yes.
an old crackpot.
Right.
But
And the
Biden-
other ones are quaff.
But
Right.
Biden looks so old.
Biden's-
He looks
he
crazy.
does look
I
old.
think
He looks like a skeleton.
Yeah.
I think
Like Bernie at least is like, blah, 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 blah. I mean, his face looks old, but he's like got a lot of pep. Like
Yeah,
Joe
yeah.
is like,
But that pep,
you're like
I
he's
think-
gonna fall down the stairs.
I think a certain person finds that pep distasteful, and they
Right.
prefer
Oh, yeah, but
someone.
that's a
They
separate-
prefer an old person that can stand there and shut up.
God.
I mean, Bernie's not going to sit down and get made up the way that
Right.
like Biden, they'll cake on makeup, they'll like do dyes and like little paintbrushes and shit on his little cracks.
The
and crevices.
Quetzal
Yeah.
treatment.
Yeah. treatment.
Oh, make him a chin. Let's go. Come on.
I wonder if the
Even
Bernie's
the
if the Bernie's too old rhetoric was more from when they were trying to position Mayor Pete as like this viable
still are.
young
Yeah.
figure.
Oh,
They're trying to make something out of him.
he's got
Well, I
one knife in
think
each
they were-
hand for Kamala and Biden, and just like creeping him in the back like fucking Chucky. Like,
Has anybody
He
seen
is
the
very
documentary?
much like Chucky. No, but I've
It's
heard.
so amazing. It's like him just sitting there eating cereal, and then his partner comes in and is like, "Hey, I wanted to talk about something. You know, like we said we would talk about a relationship, and I thought that we could do that now." And Mayor Pete's just like, "Whatever, go ahead."
Yeah,
Like,
he's like
react-
a robot human.
There's a point where his partner comes up and is like, so it looks like you're going to be the only one that doesn't have their partner on stage with you for this thing. Everybody else has their wife there, and you're not going to have your partner. And he's just like, yeah, that would look bad.
He's such a
I
fucking
feel so bad
asshole.
for Chasen because Mayor Pete does not give a shit about
He's
Chasen.
probably
He
being
hates
compensated
being-
very well by
Yeah.
the CIA.
That's exactly
like-
right.
He's gotta
Probably-
suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because
I'm
he
That's
sure
definitely,
he's
exactly right.
soul
Chasen
sucking.
definitely wants like a beautiful, sweet life with someone who loves him, and like, I'm sure he breathed a sigh of relief when Mayor Pete didn't get the nomination. He was
Yeah.
probably like, "Fuck
Oh, I'm sure that when they were like, we want you to take a dive so that we can prop up Joe Biden, Jason was like, you have to.
Yeah, totally. Oh, and that's why he's so cold with him now. That he's just like, no, I don't want Jason around.
Yeah.
Because
You
Jason
believe
was
in me.
like, you sit down. You sit down to Joe.
I am sick of this shit. Stop being president.
It would be a good action movie where, like, kind of Die Hard style movie where Chasen, like, takes their kid hostage in, like, a whole skyscraper and it's just like, I just want my husband to pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be really cool.
It's so brutal.
SNL would never come for Mayor Pete like that.
No,
Right.
they wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they're not allowed to.
Yeah, certainly
It's
not.
against contract to go
He's
after me.
such a robot made by the CIA.
He absolutely. He's a product, is what he's like a political product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the like, weird Russophobia. It's like really she doth protest too much now that we have an entire, like, news and entertainment wings that are committed to a particular political party.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah, it's
nakedly.
amazing.
And then we're yelling about Russia, like,
Right.
and now we're gonna
Well,
start yelling about
I
China.
guess Russia's just got the one political wing with the propaganda arm, and
You at least have two.
well, nominally two.
Yeah, but
Yeah, right,
two
right.
are one.
We just have good guys and bad guys in our one wing.
It's a Bokononism thing. Like the,
I mean, the
Cat's
difference is in Russia, everyone knows it's only one.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
And in China too. Regular
But
people
here,
in China are
everyone
like, the news
thinks-
is propaganda.
well, they know it's only one because whenever there's a viable competition for
They
it,
get killed.
they just get murdered.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but here people think that there's a difference between Biden and Trump. And there basically is.
Well, Trump gave us money when there was a plague.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
that.
The difference is that Trump kept giving us money to shut us up, and Joe Biden does not.
Because, yeah, Trump knows. He's just like, yeah, like, that's what,
because
you know.
Joe Biden knows he doesn't have to give you money. He has the political leverage.
NPR did several times this week report, or maybe this was just Democracy Now! The news
Big
was
difference.
pointing out how much, like, at the border, at the Mexican border, how, like, Joe Biden's just continuing to do what Trump did and not even acting like it's going to change. So they're starting to say that it is.
I mean, he himself
Yeah, but there's a big
said
difference
many
between
times during the election,
NPR and Democracy Now!
vote for somebody else if you want things to change. I'm not going to change anything.
Oh, he says that.
He
yeah.
said that like multiple
And
times.
I said, okay.
This has been a dark week for Democratic values, you know, and we have a Democrat in office. It doesn't mean anything.
No.
It's a regime change. The successor regime is on the rise.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, what if we were
Great.
run by a vampire instead?
Wait, I
Instead.
think it's like very.
Not a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is that Quetzal is actually invested in, like, the future of the community on some level.
Right, right.
I would prefer Quetzal so much.
To Biden.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah, yeah.
how Quetzal is a good guy in this book.
Yeah. I don't think. What's he doing? What is he doing?
Snacking.
Is that all? He's just like there to
Got
snack?
his motivation.
And,
I don't know. I mean, like,
Because he does seem like.
Okay,
He's-
well, let's triangulate it. What all has he done? Like, he's ascended to power in the church,
well,
which does what function? What's the function of that? And then he shut down the sacred windows, which does what function? And
Right.
then once it's like, I don't know, does he want everyone to stay or he wants everyone to leave? He wants everyone to stay.
well,
Does he
yeah.
want people to stay?
Hold on.
Because he's
So, hold
on-
on. I think that something we have to acknowledge here is from Short Son, and we can't diminish the importance of the snacking that he's been doing
Of course.
Yeah.
because
But
that
he's
changes
becoming-
who he is.
That's true, yes. Right.
So, like, I don't think that we can look at, like, he arrived with a plan and is executing that plan. He arrived probably as an unthinking larva,
yeah.
and as he knows what's out there in a different way, and what he is. But I think he has an evolving devotion to the world. So, like, I kind of think he's a good guy at this point because he's been here forever.
Yeah.
drinking humans, becoming human, and now he is a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end, he does want everyone to go to green.
True.
Right, because at the end of the day, he's an inhumo. I find that word too silly for the
It's a
rest of
weird
this
word.
book.
It's a little
Yeah.
annoying.
Inhumu.
In Humu.
In all of its forms.
Right.
That is a goofy word to me. It was
Yeah.
a strange pick.
Well,
Like
it was-
it's Stan Lee level of silly.
Yeah.
To the point where he has Inhumans.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, it could.
And there's no way that Gene Wolfe didn't know about Inhumans.
And yeah, the Inhumans had been around for like 20 years by the time this book
Yeah.
came out. So
Don't you think it's possible Gene Wolfe thought that comic books were for children and that it wasn't really like worth changing his book for adults over a play toy for kids?
Changing, what do you mean?
I mean,
I
like
don't
maybe,
think he changed anything.
no, I'm saying like if perhaps he knew about the Inhumans, but it would never occur to him that that would have anything to do with his separate idea about a book he's writing for grown-ups.
I think that it would occur to him and he would decide. I think it was a decision to not change it. Change it. I also don't think he just knew about Inhumans and was like, fuck
That's
it,
a
I'm
different
using this
thing.
word.
yeah,
Yeah, he just used the word because
That's
And I
the
just
one
think
he
that's a
wanted.
bold choice. Although, admittedly, nowhere near as bold in 1970 or whatever when he was first coming up with this.
do you think he came up with the Inhumu in the 70s?
Like 79.
Well,
Probably.
This was in the 90s.
Yeah, this book is like almost into the 90s at this point. I mean, I
Oh,
don't know
you don't
when
think
was-
that he had the whole idea?
Hell no.
no,
of,
no way.
of the sun cycle?
No.
You think he had the whole
Absolutely
sun
not.
cycle?
There's no
I
way.
do. Like
Not in-
Mozart, he saw the whole thing at once.
Yeah, but not in every
No.
particular. I think he might have seen the big strokes, but I don't think he knew every character.
No, not
No, I feel
Okay.
like the Long Sun definitely feels like something that, like, ideas that would have come to him once he was like 3 books into New Sun.
Okay.
Right, like I feel like they're, I don't know, I
Maybe.
like
I don't
especially
even know though.
yeah, I don't know, I feel like
Yeah, I have no way
Well,
to argue why I feel this way.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's all it is. It's like a feeling you have, right? Like that, and
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. But I've been reading a little bit of Castle of Days this week, and he talks about like the conception of New Sun as one there, but there's if anything was happening with Long Sun, that would have to be like.
I
in the
mean,
back of
New
his
Sun
head.
would have had to have he had the ending in mind for sure.
Oh,
like
definitely.
everything in those books is like leading
It seemed like
into itself,
It
but
seemed
like
yeah, he more or less did. Like,
Right.
Yeah, like he wrote the first one and then he
Earth-
kind of had an
I don't know
idea.
if Earth was a part of his initial conception for it, but
I thought there wasn't there a story that someone convinced him to write Earth.
The publisher or something.
Yeah.
mm.
Someone was like,
Yeah.
"You gotta go one more and make it make sense this time."
And he's
And
like,
he's like,
"Oh, okay."
absolutely not.
He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say make it weirder.
Yeah, it's like
Hey,
asking
look,
for
here's
your
my
LGBT
book. I now
consent.
made it weirder. Isn't that what you wanted? They're like,
I mean, the Long Sun is maybe more of that than Earth was. Like more of like, I don't know. There's a legibility to it that New Sun.
But that's deceptive.
It is. I mean, there's clearly like a lot more going there. I mean, I don't know about more, but there's a lot under the surface. But it is like on the surface a very readable book
Yeah.
in a way that New Sun fights you.
Yeah.
So like I feel like he definitely knew what he was doing with this, which I mean is also kind of crazy because I don't know why you would read Long Sun without having read New Sun before it. But maybe some people do.
good.
I'm sure some people picked it up first
It would work.
I think I'm trying to convince Ronsky to do that
to just
To
start,
start
as an
Long Sun.
experiment. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, just see what happens.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Monitor.
you don't need to know anything from New Sun to
No,
appreciate
no.
that story you're talking
I
about.
guess,
that
like,
surface level story.
I just have a hard
You just
time.
wouldn't do it.
I guess
it's
is
just not a good idea.
yeah.
I mean, it's just like, in my opinion, New Sun is just the introduction. Why? I mean, it's
There's-
just like a.
I saw.
strong novel.
Well, I did see something on it. Like there was an Instagram post or somebody. There was like a New Sun meme or something, and someone commented under it and was like, "Oh, which of these books should I start with?" And somebody was like, "I think maybe like the third or the fourth one are better." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Somebody told me that I should start." That I should not start with Shadow of the Torture, and that I should start later on. I was like, whoever told you that hates you. Like, you should absolutely
Psychological
not do that. Like, that's insane. Yeah, or they're performing an experiment. Like, that's utterly insane.
I mean, you would get 4 pages in and be like, no. I mean, you wouldn't do it. There's no way.
That'd be
you
fucking crazy.
You would get 4 pages in and be like, this makes no sense. I cannot. Like, what the fuck is this about?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people read Shadow and then tap out.
Yeah,
because it is so.
I mean, that is the counter argument, is that if you start at the beginning, you really won't be that much more lost than if you start at any other point, as long as you read it in a circle.
Yeah, as long as you get to Shadow eventually. I
do think that your experience of Long Sun would be changed if you don't have New Sun, because you don't know how bad Typhon is, really.
Right. I guess it would be really interesting to read Long Sun and then read New Sun and just kind of like see.
Yeah.
Because I imagine there would be a lot of aha moments.
Yeah.
If you're like I had no idea what half of this shit meant, and then you kind of fill in a lot of blanks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know about short
do
sun.
it. I think they're their own things.
I mean, you could.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you could.
I mean, there's a reason that this isn't just like
Not short sun,
the
though.
second
Right.
the second book of the New Sun or whatever. You know, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
clearly a separate thing, but.
Yeah, you
Different
could
suns.
read Long Sun first, but you would have to read New Sun before you read Short Sun.
Yeah, I
You
think
would
so.
have to.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if it would be good.
What more do you have to say about that?
Because actually, New Sun doesn't necessarily take place before Long Sun. You know, it's not like it does. Actually, it does.
Well, no. I mean, not necessarily.
I mean, the timeline's going to get slippery once one part of it is in space. So
Well, and also
Typhon.
the Long Sun. Wait, how many years after Typhon is Severian?
Yeah, I feel like there's something that doesn't quite add up to all in all that for me. And I've been meaning to go through and look up all the figures and do some adding and subtracting.
Well, we could do it. I mean, you put all my Gene Wolfe books under the computer.
I'm sorry. As ever, Gene is holding us up.
Because we was gonna say we could look in the lexicon and look at the. But like, there's a good period of time between Typhon and Severian. Hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Well,
At
so-
least.
Yeah.
That whole
Right?
castle is abandoned. So
Hundreds at least.
It feels like 2000.
Yeah.
Just like if we're looking at
Yeah.
Jesus and shit.
Thousand-ish. In the low thousands. And then the whirl is like 300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
this
then we
is-
have to take into account time dilation
Yeah,
as they
yeah.
approach the speed of light, and I don't know the math about that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely discussions about that in this guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing we can like solidify is that like the ship went out before Severian was born on like a linear time.
Long.
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
So just thinking in terms of that happened beforehand.
What? And then there's the Zadkiel, which exists in all times at all. So like,
Right.
and Severian was on it. So like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and then where does? Well, I guess there's no need to talk about that now.
No.
When Short Sun goes new, when is that? But we can
Right.
talk about that like 3 or 4 books from now.
3 or 4 years from now.
When Short Sun goes new.
Yeah, when it goes to
When
the
it
new
loops
sun.
in. Oh, yeah.
The Duco.
When they're on Earth.
Oh, that's a whole fucking crazy ass fucking thing.
And is that time travel? If you're powered by imagination, then can they go back in time when they're doing it, or are they going directly to where Earth is now?
Oh, I see.
In there now.
I see.
I don't think that there's linear time in imagination. It's
Right,
the exact
right.
opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. But the Duco doesn't necessarily. But we should talk about
we should
this.
talk about it.
couple of years
It's
from
really
now.
hard
Yeah.
not to.
See, in 2024,
Yeah.
we'll get to this.
If President Pete allows us.
Yeah,
There's no way.
President Pete's
There's
going to
no
shut down
He-
all YouTube streams of book
there's
clubs.
no. I do think that the CIA has a lot of capability, but I think that installing Mayor Pete as the president is beyond their capability. I don't think there's any fucking way.
Well, they forgot that the
like 3 years from
politician
now,
who's
if I'm
charisma-
totally wrong, y'all can remind me of this.
No, you're right. He's not
But-
going to be elected in any like conceivable way. I do think he's a product
Could
of
be
like
installed,
I think he's a
maybe.
media product to deflect people from voting for Sanders. Basically, it was what I felt like. I felt like people.
I mean, and
invested
they
in
put him in the he's the
To, like,
fucking
throw him
DOT
in.
or whatever the fuck he is. Like, he's been shelved. Like, I don't think
Well,
Nobody told
Even if
him
the
that.
Democrats choose him, the Democrats are losing.
Well, I think they. I mean, they
That's
had
true.
to have realized that, like,
He's
oh,
not helping
this
anybody.
this guy is a fucking like wet rag of a personality.
I mean,
Like,
he's
you
just like,
can't-
yeah, he's anti-charisma.
Yeah, there's just like nothing there.
It's
So
kind of
like-
amazing
but
that
he
they
was a-
let
he
that
was a
he
product.
let them do that documentary.
He was just there to
He
like
doesn't know
throw
what's
people
happening.
off and confuse voters. is
He's
what
a
I feel
robot.
like. There were like, remember how there were like 12 like Democrats running?
Right.
Like that was
Yeah.
by design. I feel like they wanted to like
Dilute
yeah,
everything.
dilute it as
split
much
them
as
up,
possible.
So, Biden would just cut ahead, which is exactly what happened.
If only Marianne had held on.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Doesn't John Aarons work for her podcast now?
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
think so.
I want a
think-
job
I
with
think
her.
That's what he does. Yeah.
I
haven't.
I bet she's either like great to work for or really hard
could
to
be
work
horrible.
for.
That's
She
the
could be
thing.
really hard to
Absolutely.
work for.
Yeah.
That kind of person.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
She was the only one that talked to us like we were grown-ups.
Yeah.
But of course, everybody thought that meant that she was talking like an idiot
Yeah.
baby.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah. But on the subject of politics, so Ketzel is
know. Nice.
Wait.
You
No.
did it.
So this will go back to Biden. But like But Ketzel is like what I feel like is like maybe like a archetype of politician that's in American politics between like up until like the 1990s, right? And that's like a scheming politician who's like involved in everything and thinking really strategically about things. And now we don't have that anymore. I feel like Biden is more the figurehead politician. Like he's not like a Clinton-esque politician who has like, like a closet full of dark secrets. And he might, but like, he's not like a Nixon, Like
It's
who
just
I
that
feel
he
like-
lies outright all through the 80s. That's his dark secret. Is all through the 80s he kept trying to be president. And
That's
they were
true.
like, you can't run for president when you say that you saved Nelson Mandela from jail, liar.
Right.
That's his dark. He already.
He needed enough time in between that people could forget about who he was.
And for lies to become not a big deal.
Yeah,
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lies are no
Yeah.
longer like a game changer of any type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the
We're in the post-fact economy.
the other side of
Wizards
people
rule.
realizing that politicians lie is the acceptance that politicians lie, and it's just like, oh, he's lying because that's what they do, and
Right.
Yeah.
that's just the normal way things are.
And I guess our historical consciousness, like the amount of time that we consider to be relevant to our own, has drastically shrunk too. Like 20 years ago, someone thinks a thing that happened 20 years ago has bearing on the present, and we no longer think that.
It's shrunk to basically nothing.
Well, it's like
I mean,
stuff
it's
that
basically-
happened like 3 years ago has no bearing on
Right.
the present.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like maybe a month.
yeah.
Like maybe a
Well, it's
month.
just because of the way the media churns
Well,
that
and the internet.
stuff, there's just like no way to. Nothing has any real permanence in our.
Oh, but canceling is forever.
Yeah, right.
No,
Once
I don't think that canceling is forever.
You don't?
I think that it depends on the cancel. I mean,
It's obviously
if you were
not.
canceled by Disney, wait till next year and you get hired back again.
Yeah, most people who get canceled end up totally fine.
If you know how to pivot, then you're fine. You know,
Well,
there's a couple of comedians who can't do anything but sit in a room and masturbate in front of people, and they're the only ones that haven't been able to like figure it out.
But they're still doing okay.
Yeah, they still have scads of money. They just aren't working now.
Oh, I mean, like Louis C.K. is working now.
Oh, is he?
Someone told me
See,
that
there
last
you go.
night.
Yeah, like I mean, he's
Like,
not at the same, like it's not as high profile. You know, he's not gonna like do like play at the Lyric Opera House or anything. But like,
Right.
but no, like he's back. Like
He sold out Magoobies.
Yeah,
The movies.
Yeah, he played Magoobies.
Yeah, so Louis C.K. got brought low, had to perform at Magoobies, but still
Are you
performing.
kidding?
No,
No, I believe, I believe that.
it was at the
No.
beginning of
He's
the
probably
pandemic,
back
and I
in
was
the-
like on the fence about going because I was like, I'm really interested to see what this scene is like. Like,
Right.
is it just like I'm here to see comedy, or is it a bunch of people here like I'm here to see support a masturbating man?
Yeah. as a masturbating man, I support him.
So,
But
but
someone think of the masturbating men.
it was
Can't stop.
it was during. I mean, it might have been March or like
No, I remember you
April. Yeah.
telling us.
I remember
about
being
it.
like, holy shit. I mean, I just really think Magoobies is a great venue to see things.
Right.
It's surreal as hell, and
Yeah,
like,
it is.
I have a lot of fun every time I go.
You say it's real as hell?
Surreal.
It's pretty
Oh,
real.
surreal.
It's very surreal.
The
It's surreal,
comedy
but it's also
clubs
real.
are a very weird phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's like very strange to me.
And the best guy I ever saw there at the amateur night is now huge. He's now totally blown up. Scott Seiss. He's the angry IKEA guy TikToker. Have you not seen him?
Yeah,
Oh, he's incredible.
That guy's awesome.
He's the reason I wipe my penis when I pee.
It's like,
Oh, is that guy?
Yeah, that guy.
and I was like, oh, you want to talk to the manager? Yeah, you think the manager?
Oh, that guy. Okay.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, the manager's going to say the same thing I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to call corporate? Corporate doesn't do shit.
Yeah, he's really funny.
Was that filmed at the White Marsh IKEA?
No, it's
I
filmed in front of a green screen.
Yeah, I think he just.
But I,
He was working there.
no, I think he really
had-
did work there.
Yeah, he did work at it.
Yeah, but I also think it was like 10 years ago, and he kind of pulled it out
Yeah.
recently and unexpectedly became a huge hit. Scott Seiss, go check him
It's
out.
funny.
It's very funny, and it's also like he had no material like that when I saw him. He had all this other stuff about being raised in a house of only women, and he like there's a really great bit about how dildos are scarier than guns. Like he's
funny.
yeah, the IKEA thing's like it kind of hit me as being like just a whole new wing of his material. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't see any kind of that mean streak in him at all when I saw him
Mm-hmm.
do set. I think he's gonna go places.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, he's real good, and he's a
Good for
local boy.
Oh, the boy made good.
Well,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
well that's why I saw him at an amateur
Well,
night.
I
in
think
Cockeysville.
Stavros Halkias basically cut his teeth in Magoobies, right?
That's a funny turn.
And bar yeah, for Saps. It's
And
finally-
the Zodiac.
Sorry.
And what's the fuck that
He's missing
punk
a tooth,
club,
right?
right? He was
Okay.
he was one of the guys down at Sidebar.
Yeah, and like I mean, they would
He
do
did
like
everything.
they would do like auto bar nights and stuff too. So
Yeah.
like
He was always man. I have a. Can I tell the story? Okay, so this I'll do this as quick as possible before Jen gets back. So
Don't let her know. Don't let her know.
Here, but you can tell the story.
so we. I'm going to figure out if I can say names or not. So there was a girl we know who was getting into stand up and just beginning stand up several years ago. Before Stavros and those guys moved to Brooklyn and anyone knew who they were outside of here. And Stavros was part of this crew that did a monthly stand-up night next to the bar where Connor and I used to work. And there was this crew of dudes that were there every month doing stand-up. And
would they do it at the Zodiac?
yeah, at the
Oh,
Zodiac.
okay.
And so I only knew these guys. I didn't know any of their names. I just knew them by sight of like, okay, obviously comedy's going on tonight. And here they all come at the end of the comedy and they're all sitting at the bar and talking about how comedy went. And they were like all just dudes, you know? But there was like a fat guy who was so fat. Like it was one of those things where it was like, you know, like a lot of things that he does must be different in life because like he couldn't sit, like in a movie theater seat and stuff like that.
Right.
And then there was, some other guys, and Stav's one of them. And so this girl we know started doing stand-up, and she starts dating this guy, Stavros. And I'm like, who's that? She's like, oh, he's a comedian. He's one of the guys that does that Zodiac thing. He's like, and I was like, what does he look like? And she's like, I don't know, he's kind of fat. And I was like, my brain just immediately was like, our friend.
You went to the biggest one.
Yeah, I went to, because when I think of that crew, the one who I would say, if I was going to give them all names off the top of my head, there's like the one of this ethnicity, the one of this glasses, the one of this,
What's this? So you just think of Stav as the Greek one? Is that?
Yeah, I don't,
He's very Greek.
He's incredibly
I
Greek.
think I might have thought of him as the teeth one.
That's what I was saying. That's what I just said.
Yeah. So when she says that, I would have thought, if she would have said the teeth one, I would have known exactly. But she said the fat one, so I went to the really, really fat guy. And I was like, and so this girl used to come to my house because she was friends with my roommate. And they would drink a lot. And then I'd hang out and talk to them and also drink. And so it was late at night, people had drank. She's telling me this. And I'm like, okay, I'm not judging, and you should do you, but I need to ask you some questions about the logistics of this.
Sure.
Because in my head, I'm imagining this guy who can't sit in a movie theater seat, and I'm being like, there must be all new things you had to learn. Is it? And she was getting really uncomfortable. I'm like, this is weird because we know each other.
Well,
she's a comedian. Shouldn't be unexpected for me. I'm doing it. I'm being very diplomatic here about this. And she was like, and eventually I just had to be like, all right, I guess you're not going to tell me anything about your huge fat boyfriend. And then it was 2 years later, Stavros becomes this huge thing in Brooklyn, and I see this guy, and I'm like, that one is Stavros. And I haven't spoken to that girl, moved away and then moved away again. So I have never been able to be like, hey, that one time? I thought it was a different guy.
This is a very Larry David story.
That is total Larry David.
To this day, I'm pretty sure that she has her opinion of me has been totally derailed by the fact that I was asking her, how
Wait
do you
a
need a
minute.
crane to have sex with your not that fat boyfriend?
I don't necessarily think being I thought it was a fatter guy is going to smooth that over. That's not going to help.
Anyway, I've been dying to put that story online.
But I feel like this all starts by her being he's fat. She
It is an
describes
odd-
her boyfriend
yeah.
as he's, I don't know, he's fat. I'm saying I feel like that sets the tone for,
Sure.
she could be he has fucking weird, fucked up teeth. Or
He's super
Greek.
Greek.
He has brown hair and he's about this tall. Or he wears these kind of t-shirts. There's 1,000
his name is Stavros.
There's 1,000 things. There's 1,000
That's a way
things
of
you
doing
can
it.
say about that guy to describe him
who
that
you
aren't
dating?
I don't know. He's fat.
Missing teeth.
I just feel like
He's a fat, balding
I'm just saying.
guy missing some
I
teeth.
think we're cementing our reputation as the come town of wolf criticism.
I'm just saying. I think she set the tone.
Don't victim blame.
But yeah, because nobody is expecting if
This
you
is all
know,
clearly Ryan's fault.
If I was oh, he has 2 heads, I'm not gonna expect the first question to be so how do you fuck?
That is a good point.
True.
Yeah, there's an escalation there.
but also,
Escalation.
but I think if you did tell Ryan that your boyfriend had 2 heads, he would probably immediately jump to, but how do you fuck?
Okay. Okay.
How much can they swivel? Can they look at each other?
Actually,
Can you fit in this?
if you were having multiple drunk conversations with this person already, then she probably should have known what she was getting into.
Anyway.
It's funny. If you were having a funny, fun conversation amongst friends, it's not inappropriate to. Completely just to be what's sex like?
Well, I think that being
I mean,
inappropriate
I don't know.
isn't inappropriate. That's the thing.
It
Those
depends.
conversations become inappropriate because everybody's drunk. That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You just gotta. You need to be able to budget how inappropriate some people can be.
Budget.
Some people don't realize how deep
I
that
really
goes.
Yeah.
love the use of the word budget.
I feel
very
like
funny.
if anyone at the table is a stand-up or an aspiring stand-up, it's like fucking game on. You know, game on. Like
You feel challenged by that.
yeah, in a good way. Like yeah. I feel like that's.
Or
know,
you mean like nothing's off the table?
right? That that this is almost
Well,
research.
but I really think that it's not just that nothing's off the table. It's that I think that you think that you want to rise to that.
Yes. It's like a research and development meeting for stand-up. I think. You know, like to have.
You're helping them.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's probably got a joke about this idiot who kept on asking her about her fat boyfriend.
I would love that. I think you could make a good bit out of that somehow.
Can I have?
I think it's
those
funnier
hand
from my
markers,
perspective, but
please? Oh, I
So
don't know
how
what this
do-
one does. Oh, it goes open.
that's.
well, speaking of unconventional body types, Quetzal.
We were talking about it before we went live. Connor always thinks of Quetzal as Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Not bad, right?
I definitely also think of him as Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's Dracula. How are other people picturing him?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Old.
Little side note. Does
Older.
Elon Musk's new haircut not make him look like Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element?
Oh yeah, totally. He's got a Zorg haircut.
Oh,
does?
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
Sidebar.
I
It's
wanna
really
see.
bad.
Can somebody
It's
show
horrible.
me?
It looks like shit.
How do I find that?
Apparently
I
just Google
Google that.
Elon
Who's
Musk
the dude
haircut.
in the first the Star Wars prequels who plays the Emperor? I kind of think of Quetzal a little bit like that.
Oh, that makes
Like more
sense.
of like
Palpatine.
a- yeah, Palpatine.
Denver's always
Palpatine.
played by the same dude.
Oh, it is.
I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
okay. That's
Yeah.
the same guy who plays it in the.
I
that
accidentally
Empire Strikes
typed
Back.
He always
Elon.
plays.
Oh, okay.
Elon
That's cool.
Musk.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
The first thing that came up when I looked for it
Which
is
is such a
He was like a younger.
better name.
the first when I googled it. The first thing that came up was
Yeah.
from Futurism.com, and the headline
Oh
is
my
Elon
God.
Musk got a strange haircut, and we gotta say, yikes!
I love the way
And it
that
is
the news pops.
straight up the Gary Oldman from Fifth
It-
Element.
I
I
That's
saw
what
somebody
it is.
comment, "Why would you get all those hair transplants just to shave them off?"
You probably didn't get the transplants on the sides.
It's like specifically what he's going for. It has to be
Oh,
either
yeah.
that or
Here's
vanilla.
Well, I mean
chocolate
that
frosting.
whole
That's
generation of billionaires seem to all think that any
There was one that
like
was
all
even
science
better,
fiction
but
is
broken.
cool and
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
and any
There was, like,
character
all
or
seven.
idea that you could emulate in real life is worth doing.
Yeah, it's just interesting that he gravitates towards the clear villain.
Right.
Like,
Well, but that's a thing that's happening. There's a huge thing in the Star Wars fandom right now of people being like, the rebels sucked and the Empire was right.
Ugh.
And there's a whole bunch of like, Thanos was right. Fucking Darkseid was right. All
Is
these
that Freddy?
villains are right things. And it's weird because I have a theory that villains are activists and superheroes are status quo. But
Yeah.
they're doing a very different thing. Their argument is different than mine.
Right.
No, definitely. I mean, like a lot of, especially in the Marvel universe, the superheroes are all just like just instruments.
Is
Of,
anyone telling
Fascism.
X-Men is kind of different.
Yes.
X-Men's a whole. That's its own thing.
But like Captain
Did you say
America.
coffee, Dan?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Which Captain America comics explore the status quo.
This is-
but
How many
The
people
movies
want
don't.
I could
No.
go for a coffee, please.
This,
What? I take
yes,
coffee.
please, thank you.
Everybody, I'll make as much.
But this, like, this is the thing about morality in the mainstream is that it's never about anything but power. Like,
right, yeah.
its own, like, and it makes a ton of sense for people to be doing these revisionist things now that they've been forced to side because it's about power. In real life, they've been forced to side with horrible villains, so they need their fictional imaginative life to kind of like correct itself and support their real life decisions that they don't have any.
But it's exactly what's happening. Well, the Empire brought everybody jobs. It's like, no, it didn't. It was made up.
it's. I
And
wish
it
I
was only
could.
made up to be evil. You can't say that they brought people jobs.
Yes, all those guys working on the Death Star, they're probably like Union, right? And then they all got blown up.
They're union. Like, what the fuck?
But it's a weird. There is a weird thing in like headcanon and fanfic and all this stuff of extrapolation, where you can like I feel like there's an idea that you can prove that your fanfic is truer than other people's fanfic, and now we're getting to a point where your fanfic can be truer than what the studio's putting out.
He's so pretty.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That
Certainty.
face.
There's
We're
like
looking at a cat.
Freddie,
Looking
I wanna
at a
see
cat.
your face. Come show me.
like the more things are uncertain, the more people demand certainty. Like,
Sure.
and will not abide. The
And vice
uncertainty that's
versa.
really true.
I think that when things get too certain, people are like, I just wish that something would happen. You know, like this is what I Ching, the Book of Changes, is what it's all about.
It's also kind of a practical thing. Like if you're writing like a comic book series over the course of decades, you know, like the writers at a certain point have to go like, okay, well, what if the villain's the good guy? Like it just kind of like ends up like you have to like start turning inward, like and just like exploring it from that direction because there's like nothing else.
Yeah, like
no
Magneto
other
could,
feed
Magneto
to-
could not be a bad guy forever because his points were too salient.
I kind of think Professor X is kind of a bad guy right now.
I saw something about that recently.
Well, it's an interesting thing looking at what the X-Men is doing, which we will all be soon because I think it's coming
it
to
was
a
from
movie.
Jordan. Jordan said something about that.
He's touching my head.
Well, Jordan is what turned me on to what the X-Men are doing right now. But instead, like, where X-Men have always been, like, we're fighting to be accepted in society because we're different. Now they're like, we got our own island. It's great. You can't come. We're leaving.
That's
Yeah, I mean that was kind of always Magneto's deal. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants really just
Well, that's
wanted to get
everybody's.
left alone.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Everybody else is on the Magneto boat now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's probably fine.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it used to be that the assimilation of this marginal population was like a distant idea. Like, what would it be like if we accepted the freaks? And now it's like we know what it would be like. The freaks just become as horrible as regular people. So what would it be like if we didn't? Like, what if they didn't want to be accepted? That's like the crazy idea now.
Yeah.
The thing that you need fiction to be able to explore.
Yeah.
But I love that thing that you wrote. I logged in Twitter for like 1 second, and the only thing I saw, and I was like, "This is perfect time to go." Was were you talking about how like in the superhero world, people who got their powers by accident are loved, but people who are born with them are hated.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does the average person even know the difference? Like, what if the guy who's like, oh yeah, I got bit by a spider, was actually born that way and is just lying? Like,
But I don't like that's the thing. Well, technically, do people hate Spider-Man? Like I don't know. I never.
Jonah
read
Jameson
Spider-Man.
hates Spider.
Okay, because I don't really read Spider-Man.
but the people, I mean, I don't either, but my understanding is the people on the street are like, he's a hero, but
Okay.
the authorities are like,
Yeah, he's
not a hero.
he's at odds with the establishment, but he's beloved by the common man.
Oh, because I kind of thought
An
he was like
accurate
sort of a
stance on
pest.
vigilantism.
Like a little pest, you know, that people were like, "Oh, that spider, it's fat," you know. But
Well, especially
Because he
when
saves people.
I feel
when
like
they find out who he is, they stop liking him usually.
right, it's usually a big problem. When it,
because
And I kind of think that this might be an interesting keyhole to look into that your thesis here of like the people who accidentally get powers usually have a secret identity and nobody knows who they are, so they're not a person. But the people who are born with them, they're like, I know you. You have these powers. I don't like you.
Oh, because you like grew up with that person and you might have seen their like scary.
You can compare them to
Power,
yourself. They're
yeah.
like, you're a person and I'm a
But
person.
isn't the
This is,
idea-
I don't know who this is.
Isn't the idea you're threatened by the mutant because they represent because they're natural like you are and they represent like something better than humanity.
yeah, they're the next thing. It means
Right.
that you're obsolete.
Which is so stupid. Like okay, like
Whatever,
you still
we'll all
get to
become the phalanx.
you still get to live your stupid life. Like like just
Maybe there's like
You
a
know?
weird economic argument here too that like if you start regular but but become super, it's somehow because you're good. But if you start if you start super and you just stay super, then that gives us no hope. Like,
Just in the
Right,
interest
it's
of
not
being an asshole.
aspirational.
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
just
yeah,
got to be born with
it
it.
could happen to you.
Well, if we look at this through American values, it's inherited wealth versus earned wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, and inherited wealth, like it bugs us on a level, even if you're
On a very superficial level, it bugs us.
yeah.
It bugs us. Most people are like,
Oh,
No, I think that
it
America
bugs.
says it doesn't like that, while it is the only thing that's happening.
really?
But America, I think, yeah, that's why we got rid of a king. Like our mission.
Well,
statement
that's why like
has
Elon Musk does not really trumpet the whole like emerald mine part of his, well,
Right,
like
yeah.
the curated Elon Musk story is that he like invented PayPal and then invented electric cars,
Which
neither
he
of which
didn't.
neither of which are true at all.
Yeah.
And that that's just it's a much better myth if you're self-made. Like always in America, being self-made is the way to get people to like you.
And there is also an American legend of a battle between these two forces
Get
of
another
Yankees
jingle.
versus
Here you go, Jake.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Where the Cowboys are more American and have built up their own wealth, and the Yankees are the Easterners who are basically Europeans.
Yeah.
Fucking Boston.
The worst place on earth.
Yeah. Oh my
Boston.
god.
Can we have a pack pronouncement on that? I would
Oh,
like to go on
absolutely.
record and say that Boston is the worst place on earth. Get rid of it.
It's bad.
Throw the whole thing into the hub.
I've only been there once, so
That's all you need.
I haven't.
Yes.
I've never delved into.
I didn't go into the main part of Boston. But you're from New England.
Yeah. That's where Cambridge is, right? That's
Yeah.
Okay. There's some
It's like
flavor
outside.
around
I was
there.
only in like
Well, why do-
Alston,
why do
which
you
is like
leave?
outside
They're
of
so mad.
Boston.
The people of Boston are. The only thing I
Assholes.
don't like about Boston is the people.
Is it worse than
Oh,
DC?
Well, the
yeah.
driving's horrible. I guess.
Ooh, yeah, I kind of think it is worse than DC somehow, which is weird.
Boston?
Yeah.
Man,
It is.
It is.
Yeah, not even close. There's like humane elements.
there are
to
few
the
things
city
worse than
of-
DC.
There's humane elements to the city of DC.
I mean, you gotta
Is Boston
DC
worse than Baltimore?
Boston is
Oh,
the worst
yes.
place on
Yeah.
earth.
She just says it again.
Baltimore's the
The
greatest
worst
city
place
in
on
America,
That's
and
true.
Baltimore is the
City that reads.
worst place on earth.
There was one good place in Boston. It was a restaurant and bar called the Middle East, and it's closed.
Oh yeah, I heard about it because
Some coffee.
my friend went
This one you
to
have to
college in
cook like this.
Boston, and I know that they used to hang out there.
It's very it's one of those towns where it's like, I mean, I feel like it's the pinnacle of those towns in which you're like, there's colleges here, there's kids, I see people who are young. Why is it so hard to find something fun to do?
Sure, thank you.
It's iridescent. It's a beautiful cup.
That's a good cup. They're all good.
They're
cups. I
all
like
good cups, absolutely.
Swell cups.
Let me see.
But I think Boston and DC's problems both originate in the same place, which is that the soil is just soaked with like the blood of the like the most nefarious architects of our country. And that all kinds of like weird family rituals and
Yeah.
People
like
want this.
things have occurred and
Yes,
just
please.
permeated the environment with vibes.
It's true. I guess you got Boston Brahmin, but
Yeah.
you can't really think of another city that has that kind of like unified like
Ooh, that's nice.
wealth
It's a nice pour.
culture.
It's got some.
Wait, I kind of want a little bit.
I went to a wedding once in Boston. One of the guys, or the guy, was, I mean, it was hard to tell because the guy had like a crew of bros, and they all kind of, at certain points, appeared to all be the groom of the wedding.
How
And,
pagan.
They were all kissing the bride. Is that
well, there was the thing that like totally blew
It happens somewhere in Eastern Europe.
my mind was that so the bride and groom are coming down the aisle, right? And everyone turns around, you gotta look at them like that. And I turned around and I saw the groom, and I was sitting right in front of the crew. I guess no, I was behind. His whole crew was in front of me. So when we turned around, I was in front of them. So he looked right at his crew and winked while he was coming down the aisle with the bride on the arm. And I was like, that is a horrible omen for for this day. Like,
Well, you think he's like, I don't mean this.
well, it was in a.
I only like fucking you guys.
Yeah, just kidding.
I didn't.
He was just saying hi to his
That's there. I feel like that's there. Like, this is a moment that's supposed to really be for her and maybe about for them. And I feel like he was like throwing a line out there to keep them included in that moment. It was very frightening to me.
Just saying hi to his boys.
I see.
I
see
bet
that you're
they
eating a
all did
Boston
it.
cream
Like all
donut.
of everyone in that crew
You
of
know?
boys. At their wedding, they all do that. I bet because their boys are
Right.
forever.
You really do like the Fast and Furious franchise.
I love it.
Any person who's watched all the movies has to. You
To
have
know
no
them is
choice
to
but
love them.
yeah, there's no choice.
How many are there?
There's
9,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And they're giving it.
consistently high quality.
They're giving it a true ending, supposedly.
Really?
That's what they say.
10?
10 is that.
Wait, so the
Wow.
next one is nonfiction.
We did all that when we were making this franchise.
Paul Walker died.
A
We felt
retrospective.
like we were a family. Except
Is it-
some of us fought horribly.
Maybe that's in the 10th one. They just get into making movies.
Yeah.
Is it true that the future president Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel are enemies, or is that a thing to
They
like?
have a little
They
bit
have a really hard time
They
working
are.
with each
They
other.
That's not a fiction to
Vin
promote
Diesel.
the movie.
Well,
Vin Diesel, they don't work together anymore.
Vin
That's-
Diesel has an Instagram caption recent that's like a picture of The Rock, and it's like, "Come on back, little brother. Like, you gotta stop being like this. We gotta put the family to bed together. Like, ain't nobody like Hobbs out there." And it's like there are plenty of people like Hobbs. Like, it's
Isn't that the
okay.
problem? Is that they both like Hobbs, Vin and The Rock. I feel
They
like
both want to
they're.
be Hobbs.
I feel
Hobbs
like
is
they're
The
fighting
Rock's
each other
character.
because they fill the same role.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kind of. Well, when they first in the first movie that The Rock is in, which I think is Fast 5.
I think so.
You didn't even get into a fifth one.
Yeah,
That's
really.
half of that.
Well, it's like he shows up and The Rock is like a Fed, and so he's like Vin Diesel's shadow self, and they spend the whole movie just sweating and glaring at each
and
other.
like equally punching each other and
Yeah,
not falling over.
Yeah, and then they kind of join the same team, but apparently the egos were just like really massive, very hard for them to
Don't
deal
throw Jason
with.
Statham in there.
So then they made Hobbs and Shaw, but apparently The Rock and Jason Statham also have that dynamic.
No, Vin
It's
Diesel
a-
might have been a little.
Stop putting
like,
me in movies with other bald men.
Like
Definitely.
the Rock is like a way bigger actor now, right?
Yeah.
Like Vin Diesel, I can't even.
And
think
everyone
of-
likes
The Rock
him.
can do a better
Everyone
job.
likes him more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So Vin
freaking
Diesel probably sounds
hangers
threatened.
on Diesel to feel like he's at all appear with The Rock. Like, did he
Exactly.
never ever watch wrestling?
Well, yeah.
like The Rock is a whole thing
Yeah.
unto
Yeah.
himself.
I
Like
guess-
nobody is his peer.
I think
It's
well, when it comes to the Fast and Furious movies, like Vin Diesel is like the executive producer.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
He's
they
the
are
man.
his movies
Right.
in a big way. So like he feels like so much ownership over
Yeah.
that franchise and how it works and who's in them.
I really like him. I think. I mean, I haven't seen any of the Fast movies, but the things I have seen with Vin Diesel, I really like what he brings to action movies.
The Chronicles of Riddick is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and
I accidentally
Pitch
watched
Black.
the second one
Pitch Black, that's
before
what I
I saw the first one.
Pitch Black
The,
is
the second one is the one I'm
They're
talking
this-
about.
It's like a
I,
series.
But
I can
Yeah.
take or
Yeah.
leave. Pitch
But I
Black
didn't
is
it's like
understand
a
it.
prequel.
Riddick is
Yeah.
amazing.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't realize it was the second movie.
And there's a
It
video.
has nothing
game-
to do with the first movie.
I think it's a
Oh,
prequel
really?
or something.
It was written to
It's
be
the
its
same
own thing,
universe.
and they're like, "Yeah, nobody knows who you are, right? We're gonna make this a Riddick movie." He's like, "Whatever."
There's a video game that he did the voice for that is canon in the series.
It's
too.
a pretty good game.
Yeah, I really like
I
that.
played
That's
that.
how I got into Vin Diesel. Was I was like, this is a cool dude.
But The Rock it has a autobiographical sitcom
Yeah.
that he made because to run for fake president in a fake future. Like, The Rock is insane.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
amazing.
Have you heard his
An
rap?
autobiographical
Did you
sitcom.
He had a verse on a Tech Nine song recently.
What?
Oh, really?
He's rapping
It's
now.
it's really funny.
The thing is, he has a charisma that's like unmatched.
He really is. He's an incredibly.
He's a Disney princess?
yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, like he's
Oh.
He's
he
sort
has
of like Arnold of like
Yes.
his
Yeah.
generation.
definitely.
You know,
I'd say
the
more
big,
so.
charismatic
Yeah.
More so.
leader.
Like he's
Yeah.
he's
Except that he was born here.
he really eclipsed. I think he like
Was he?
the other like direct correlation is Hulk Hogan, who like in the 80s and 90s was like so universally beloved, and now is like critical consensus on him is really turned sour, not just because of the racism, but also because of how he like conducted himself in the wrestling business. He
Yeah.
made a lot of enemies. But The Rock is this. He kind of avoided a lot of those mistakes that Hogan made. Like his ego. Like he clearly has a big ego, but he has this like at least this semblance of humility that goes with it. Like his.
It's a sense of humor too.
And
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
He's funny. He's actually a good actor. Like he's just charismatic as hell.
He
Sense
has a
of humor.
legitimate
That's
confidence.
probably the thing that makes him different
Totally.
than the other. Like
Yeah, that's
that.
why
to me.
one.
That's clear.
That's why he's kind of like Arnold-esque, because Arnold was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
switched to
exactly.
like comedy movies at a certain point.
Totally.
He
Right.
realized like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a joke, and I think people will like me more if I.
Yeah.
like,
It's
do comedy.
self-aware.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's self-aware
Does
to
Yeah.
be
Does he
have a sense
rap
of
under
humor.
The Rock or Dwayne Johnson?
Well, I don't know how he's billed on that song.
Oh, also, I might. This might be.
We'll find out.
This might. I don't know. I might get like. I might get shit on for this a little bit.
Uh-oh, I'm gonna
But-
cancel you.
But no, not canceled. But maybe canceled by you guys, nerds.
Even worse.
Oh, you're gonna say something that makes us mad.
No, I may not mad,
Maybe
but just
Kitty
maybe
mad.
you might think my standards are low or something. But I was gonna say earlier, since all the whole internet missed our whole thing about Saturday Night Live, I think that actually in recent memory, the person who I felt like could have been a cast member, like seamlessly integrated and was really funny, is fucking Drake.
Oh.
I think that guy is really funny.
Oh.
I think
I have no opinion.
he's better at comedy than rapping, which is not saying much.
He's an actor. He's an actor.
He does have an acting
Yeah.
background.
I know, but I think he's really good at making fun of himself. And that's what I like in people.
Mm.
And that's what's
Yeah.
good about Rami Malek too, is
Yeah.
he can make fun of him. That's when you were talking about that.
Well, the
like
best-
the one where he
where
and
he's
Pete Davidson
and
are
Pete
like
Davidson
just
is
switch
him.
places.
It's really
Yeah.
funny.
Oh.
It's really funny.
I think
Because and I never considered that they looked alike
But they do.
until
Oh,
that.
Pete Davidson was Rami Malek
Yeah,
in the Mr.
like-
Robot stuff that they did.
But it was really it's funny. It's funny. There's a funny sketch on there where they just
seeing
play
Rami Malek
each other.
do Pete Davidson.
It's funny.
That's what made me think he could be on the show. Like he was he was really good.
But I
He's
think
very good at
similarly, I think Drake, I think Drake is self-aware and he has a sense of humor about himself, and that's what makes him likable. Compared to like other people like him,
Yeah.
very much like him, which there are like billions, he's like singularly likable because he has like, he's a little self-deprecating and he's like self-aware, and you're like, oh, you can make fun of yourself. Like, you put any other rapper, it's mostly there's not a lot of
Right,
like.
they don't have that.
You know
Eminem
that's
is interesting about this because he can make fun of himself as long as he's the one that's doing it. But if you do it, you're gonna fucking die.
Yeah, I don't think
Eminem?
right,
Oh,
Marshall.
but I think that I think Drake legitimately has a good sense of humor, and I think he's really funny. When he was on Saturday Night Live, I thought there were some like really really funny sketches on that one. It was a few years ago at this point,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was like,
Someone
he
who
could
should
be on
really
there.
be on there
Like
forever
not-
is Elon Musk.
Oh my god, that is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
It is
That
embarrassing.
nothing funny happened.
I
on
watched that as a
episode.
cultural artifact, but
I
like
only,
Yeah.
I only
It was
watched
bad.
the
I felt
Wario sketch,
Yeah.
and I
Which
had-
was
because I
terrible.
had
I've
to,
seen
and
pictures of
it
that.
fucking sucked. It was so bad.
He's terrible.
but I did
in,
have to watch it.
he's terrible in every way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the worst.
There's
Yeah.
nothing good about
How
him.
else could you? How could you be otherwise? There's a exact correlation between this constellation of terrible personal traits and hoarding money.
Yeah.
But
They are
but
absolutely connected.
Elon Musk
Because
is big with young people right now.
because of the
and
power
I-
and money.
He's got
I
a lot of
mean,
money.
no,
Right.
he's very, very popular, and he's cultivating this image of like the cool billionaire.
Right, but
Very
it has-
effectively.
Despite the
the
fact
thing
that he's a
is-
45-year-old guy
Right, like-
who
like-
has like a bunch of kids and
like-
spends all of his time on Twitter.
We're
Yeah.
like impervious to that kind of stuff, like
no,
our
but the-
generation. But young people right now,
The idea that
really,
the
really
wealth-
dig that dude.
the thing is, the kids don't like him because of any aspect of himself. You know, it's not like he draws them in with a personality thing. The wealth and money is that they've decided to like him because he's powerful. And then all the other stuff gets rationalized. Like, the draw to the man isn't like, oh, I was on the fence and then he brought me in. It's, I'm going to find whoever the most powerful rich person is and I'm going to worship them, and hopefully some of that becomes part of me.
I think there's
Well,
also
that's
a
true.
space boner.
Well,
thing that
but
happens.
but do kids? But to your point, do kids think Jeff Bezos is cool? They
Or
probably
Bill
don't.
Gates.
No.
But Elon is like going for this
And
image,
I
so
think
they.
I think
Right,
they
but I'm
like his
saying the
ideas, too.
content of is not like it's not like the content makes or breaks it. I think the effort is what makes or breaks it.
I think he's intentionally cultivating this like
Smells the rat.
eccentricity that I think
Yeah.
is part of what makes, because like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates are just like, they're not eccentric. They're just like calculating nerds, and Elon is not really a nerd
Yeah.
because like he hasn't made anything. He's just like he bought a foundership for Tesla. Like he's not. He's just a guy. All of his ideas are nothing. But the fact that he's just like constantly kind of throwing stuff out there and being quippy and like naming his kid an insane
Well,
thing.
he's also
and, like,
not afraid to just like 100% bullshit stuff.
Yeah.
He's not afraid. He's not the kind of person who needs to like ride the line between fact and fiction. He's ready to just like lay out
like,
some absolute bullshit.
Yeah, like he's and you know like Zuckerberg is just like dead behind the eyes. Like as far as like billionaires go, he has cultivated
A personality.
Well, he's cultivated the resemblance of a personality. I don't
It's
know if
right.
I will call it that, but
Right.
like he's got an outward.
He's got a persona.
He has a persona, and he's like terminally online with that persona.
Right.
So
I think
It's like a confidence thing because we did recently find out that Bezos is deeply insecure in a way that we didn't know before.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone suspected it, but the whole Leonardo DiCaprio thing showed that
Right. I
Bezos
don't know
is
what you're talking
very.
Oh yeah, you need to explain.
Okay, so there was a picture that went viral on the internet of like Bezos and his new girlfriend at some celebrity event, and somebody snapped a picture of like Bezos has got like his hand on the girlfriend's hand, but the girlfriend is turned this way and just like wrapped because she's getting attention from Leonardo DiCaprio. And Leonardo's just standing there like, hey, I'm Leo. And then his girlfriend is like, oh my God. And then Bezos is kind of on the side in his little leather jacket, you know, like, "Rrr." And so the internet was making fun of it. And then like the next day, Bezos released this picture of himself like in some forest, like deep in the jungle with his guns out. Because I guess he's been training. So he's got these like weirdly kind of bigger than you'd expect arms. And he's leaning on a little sign that says like danger, abrupt cliff drop here or something like it's some weird kind of rustic looking sign warning you that you're going to fall off a cliff if you go any further. And he tweeted himself a picture on us. He's like, hey Leo, I got something to show you. And it was just like wow, like the dude with the second most amount of money in the whole world couldn't have just waited 3 days for everyone to forget that fucking picture. He had to like come with a terrible comeback that makes him look 1,000
he probably had a
times
team
worse.
of people helping him with it too.
It's Trump.
It's sad.
Oh, hi, buddy.
Oh.
So yeah, and it was so
join the club.
it was just really sad. It was like Bezos can't he's got all the money in the world, he can't even hide how sad inside he is and how much he doesn't he's worried that he's not good enough. But yeah, like Musk lives in a total fucking lie and just is confidence all the time. And so, okay, if he says this thing's cool and it makes him cool, then yeah, I mean, he's got the money and the confidence. Fuck yeah, I'm on board.
My point is coming from a little bit of a different direction about Elon Musk. Like, I think that a lot of people look up to him because of the content of his ideas. And the younger people right now, their brains are different than ours. Like, they came up inside of the internet and inside of their phones. And I think for them, they look up to Musk.
Your argument, it's like, I feel that
It's not even an argument, it's an observation.
It's a theory. It rests on the assumption that
heard
people's deliberate, like people's actions are, people's consciously stated motivations are the biggest motivations they have. And I feel the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I feel like the motivations that people say they have for doing retarded shit like liking Elon Musk is never what they say it is. It's a psychological drive that then has to be rationalized in order to that you can live with it.
Sure.
And I think it's 1,000 times more true about young people today, not because they're stupid, but because they've been grown, like or because like time causes that or anything, but because our culture specifically at this point has completely jettisoned any like awareness of psychology. That now like the only people that think psychology is real beyond like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like doctor fix me so I can go to work, you know, beyond that, like the only people that care about it are think tanks, advertising execs, and politicians.
Yeah.
Nobody else believes in a human unconscious or subconscious except for those professional industries.
Pickup artists.
Pickup artists.
Manipulators.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they have they obviously don't apply those same principles to themselves. They have a one-way relationship with psychology of like, you are exploitable and I know how to exploit you, so I'm not.
Huh. Maybe. I would think that they would think of defensive pickup artistry at some point, but maybe they don't.
Defensive pickup.
Yeah, taking neuro-linguistic programming techniques and then reverse engineering a way to protect yourself from neuro-linguistic programming.
Yes.
It does make
makes
sense. To me, your argument that you're making does make sense if you think about, like, I have this thing about New York, like, how if you live in New York, there's, like, a pathology associated with it because the way you have to live, the way you have to live there is so depraved that the only way you can live there and not go completely insane is
To
to
convince yourself
think
you
that
want
it's the
this.
only place worth living in the entire world or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, like, how could I possibly live anywhere else? This is the greatest place in the world.
Yeah.
And I think there's, like,
trigger.
oh yeah, the button.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, that what you're saying could make sense to me in a similar kind of way for where, like, if you're a young person, Elon Musk is like a symbol of like what our world is. It's like complete bullshit with like this Twitter account and it's all like cryptocurrency, like hyper capitalism, blah blah blah, space, blah blah, fake future. And it's like if you hate him, then it forces you into this kind of like nihilism about reality and like our society and the world. And so it's like you can, because he is like the persona of our reality.
Like,
so like if you figure out a way to like him, then that means by extension you have like
A future.
a hope for reality. Yeah, basically.
I think
'Cause
some people are seeing
so-
that as the only like optimistic futurism, even though it's right.
Well, it's not
You
that
know,
you're
like-
there seeing it as that. It's that it's the only one presented. It's the only version of future that's presented.
Yeah.
There's
It's the only one that I think is presented in a way that preserves a lot of the things that we're very comfortable with. You know, I think there are lots of iterations of the future that are presented that are like, yeah, we're gonna have to make a lot of fucking
no, but that's not being
sacrifices.
presented in any way.
Right,
no
right,
one
right.
is presenting that.
I guess
that's
in
like a thing.
books.
That's a thing
Yeah,
you could.
fiction is
No,
fiction.
that's a thing.
Exactly. I was like,
Climate
X-Men.
fiction.
That's a
Yeah.
thing you can, but when I think when the vast majority of people are watching that, they're not. I think most people aren't consciously attributing that to like our world. I think
Right, yeah,
unconsciously they are. But
that's why the caveat, well, in fiction it is important. Because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's fiction. Nobody's
exactly
thinking
nobody's.
that we're working towards
But
that.
so there's it's either like Musk version of the future or this kind of like dead future, slow decline. That's the only other thing in like social
The public sphere.
consciousness
Yeah.
as far as like what we're talking about happening as a society. Those are like your two options basically.
Yeah.
And so you either consign yourself to the slow decline or you buy in for Dogecoin or whatever.
I guess there's
So it makes
there's
sense to me what you're saying.
I guess
that-
there's the sort of the fully automated luxury communism thing too, But that I feel like
That's still a small
But that's
player.
tied in
It's
with
pretty-
Musk too. I
there's
think.
there's an I feel like Musk is the non-communist version of that.
There's an interesting new genre of fiction that 2 years ago, when I read an article about it, was only happening on Reddit, I believe, of cottagecore fiction, where it's just it's really pro-happy kind of stuff, like Kimmy Schmidt kind of just like everything's good and happy, and it's just about like making your house a nice little place. And that's it. Anne is really into. She's against the idea of cottagecore, but she's reading all these books that were written in the 30s that are exactly the same thing about like I'm just gonna have a nice little house, and this is the story of how
A
I
room
made
with a view.
my nice little house because I'm sick of living in a cardboard box. And I think that's an interesting like people in the folksiest way are trying to present a an alternative view to all of this, to say like we can carve out our own little small and it's dangerous because it's like it does tie into a whole vigilantism thing, because it's like the world's insane, the government won't help us, we can carve out our own small little thing, and then the vigilante people are like, and we'll protect it with guns and kill anybody who comes to get it.
Why is that bad?
Huh?
Why is that bad? Why should people be compelled to take part in the narrative like that's decided by people that we don't know?
What are you talking about?
I mean, like, I feel like it's okay to carve out a place, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's not okay to say, and I'm gonna have guns here and no one's taking this fuck away from me.
I mean, so the problem of vigilantism is that anyone can then go say, you need to be killed, and they kill.
But no, that's different than if you're saying, I'm gonna protect my little thing here. Like, this is mine, don't come near me. That's different than saying, I'm gonna go get you.
There's a
Right, but
sort
then
of defensive.
it's a
versus
fine
an
line.
Yeah, but
offensive
it's just
posture.
very antisocial.
Yeah.
Right, but
I mean,
look
that's
at,
what's wrong with it.
Right, but look at like the alternative that people have to take part in. Like there's like the alternative is so corrupt and inflexible that I feel like at a certain point you got to make the call. Like,
No, the alternative is in my fiction, my little fantasy fiction, I just don't have to fantasize about the guns.
Okay, I
Like
agree with that.
yeah.
I thought we were talking about real life people.
No, I'm talking about the like you. If,
I think there's a meaningful
the
distinction
spectrum of-
between real vigilantes and real like whatever you want to call like Ruby Ridge people. Like,
Oh, I do think that there is a massive interesting, and I'm not trying to say anything about how these things all relate to each other, but they are all in together, and it makes for a real weird thing. And I'm only calling it weird. No judgments on this.
I'm 100% with you about guns in fiction. That
It's just interesting that where like this girl who just likes rabbits and wants to decorate her house gets somehow put into a room mentally with the people who are selling their tricked out AK-47s in the parking lot, and they end up in the same room somehow. That's just neat.
It
is my point.
That is neat. And all of this goes back to Wolf, because if you don't believe that symbols affect you, you are 100 times more affected by symbols.
Well, earlier in the conversation, I wanted to speculate that the Pro-Simian Council is a very Elon Musk-ish group.
Oh yeah, the guy with the
people who built themselves into robots.
Yeah. Like, look at my cool toy.
And so
Yeah.
and so to a degree, this whole story is about a group of people who are governed by, a military-industrial complex who's obsessed with building themselves into living guns, who are like, no, fuck that. This guy's just a nice guy, and we want to have a government where we just help each other, because it's just a bunch of like grocers. Who are like, I don't know how to shoot a gun, but I'm going to shoot a gun so you go away and I can just sell my cat meat.
Yes.
Leave me be.
Yeah.
My cat meat.
Cat
Leave
meat.
me be with my cat meat.
Scleroderma. Dry skin lady.
Do we want to talk about the chapter?
That's the first one. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Quetzal a little bit, mainly his vampire vibes.
It's so
He's
funny.
like Henry Kissinger, right? Except Henry Kissinger that has gone native and now is like manipulating things for the good of people. Except for when it really counts, I'll drop that bomb.
Yes.
Right, that's a little bit of what I was getting at earlier. Is I feel like Wolfe's idea of Quetzal is like rooted in like 70s kind of like political paranoia.
But he's the one that the whole Pro-Simeon Council is all in on that Cambridge 5 kind of spy vibe, and Quetzal I think is the one who's like, this isn't gonna work. I'm going to try to manipulate a back door so that we can get out of it here. You know?
Right.
And there's a sort of a tension here between the organic and the cybernetic that, like, I feel like Wolfe is able to present them both as corrupt leaders, but he clearly has more sympathy with religion and the way that religion maintains some very human and anti-technological aspects of being human, whereas the other side is just wants to throw away deliberately and literally wants to throw away everything that makes people human. So when it comes down to like when you've got to take a side, like it's pretty clear, like Quetzal's evil, but that's the one you want to be with. That's the one you want to spend time in a room with, like you're going to have a better time with Quetzal in a social situation than you will with any of the Pro-Simians.
It's interesting thinking about it in terms of the history of transhumanism, because psychedelic transhumanism comes before machine and science-based transhumanism, and it comes from a Jesuit priest. Like he invented the word transhumanism, and the whole concept of like humanity is a thing that we're evolving through, and this is where we're evolving.
Which Jesuit priest?
Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
Oh.
He was a paleontologist who was always in trouble with the church because he kept talking about evolution. And he listened to the radio to this Soviet geologist who was just talking about layers of, the fossil record. And he's like, you have the lithosphere where everything's stone, and then the biosphere starts having fossils in it, and then the noosphere is where you start having like machines or just humans have figured out how to change their environment. And
we have a video about
Tyler
Desjardins on this very YouTube channel.
Yeah, check out Nodding Off with me and Mark.
Remember to like and subscribe.
Ring the bell.
Do we have any chatters today? Is there any way to know?
I was looking at it a little bit, but nobody had said anything. Let me see where we're at now.
But so yeah, the organic transhumanism, the transhumanism of enlightenment in the mind comes first, and then I believe it's this guy FM 2030 was like, we can build ourselves into robots.
Oh, that makes
Johan's in there?
Yeah, Johan says, "Oh my, Quetzal is nice and he can fly."
yes. That's what I was saying. Oh, but this makes total sense because, and I feel like this Wolfe would have my back on this too, is that technology is only possible when the imagination has been pushed out to a place that allows someone to see a thing that's not real yet. That technology doesn't drive human imagination. It's like the exact opposite. And there's that awesome book. I don't know. Did I lend you the Goddess in the Alphabet?
I have that.
You did. I
was looking for it the other day.
I'll look through
It's
my
in there.
stacks to see if I need to
That
return
purple
it.
and green one.
Yeah, I want mine. But anyway, that dude has another book that's just, and that dude's a surgeon. He wrote only 2 books, I think. Schlein, is that his name? Yeah, Leo Schlein. He has a book that's all about tracing historically how art, like real crazy movements in visual art, always precede crazy developments in science by kind of a fixed amount of decades. And that he goes through as far as I feel like the last couple hundred years that we have good historical records, and says people started seeing differently because the Impressionists, and then you get a scientific revolution after that. And which totally
When
makes,
were the Impressionists?
It goes back and forth though, because a lot of Impressionists modernists were influenced by sitting on trains as those trains were moving, and then seeing the landscape go by, which people hadn't seen before as it was moving.
Yeah, I think that So part of his idea is that the art keeps it going. That like, and I would argue right now we're in a place where it's not going any further. Like, technology keeps getting better or whatever, but our life keeps getting just more of what it already is. And it's because we haven't had that artistic movement that allows people to see something that isn't yet.
I have an idea about that. I don't know that this is true. This is just an idea that scares me.
Yes.
I think that it feels like that to us because something is happening that we don't know about in a place that we can't see.
Yeah.
Tang Ping, lying flat.
Perhaps.
I hope so. That's who I'm throwing down with. The Chinese dissidents who are against work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this country, we also have the Great Resignation happening right now.
Yes! Which is awesome.
It is. It's
Long fucking time coming.
well, and that's another like. There's one of the reasons I think there's something happening someplace that we can't see is because certainly something that is happening to me is happening in a place that people that I care about and talk to regularly can't fucking see, even when I'm like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not happening.
Oh my god.
People aren't quitting their jobs are never going away. Like, it's,
Well, I mean, like all of the bosses of America are like continuing to tighten the belt and have this idea that as soon as COVID's done, it's like all going to go back to normal. All these fucking people that quit are going to come slinking back, and they're going to work for less because they're going to need money.
So I have an interesting perspective on bosses right now, because my boss, everything that happens in his mind comes out of his mouth at me all the time.
Yeah, that's what makes him fun.
So like, and he doesn't want to be a boss.
Right. This is a small business as
Right,
about
this-
as small as you can get.
This is an unusual
one-man
situation, but so like he's constantly like, I'm going to try to give you as many hours as I can, but I can't afford you at all, and you know, frankly, my body can't handle this, so I'm going to quit too. And so like every day he's like, you're going to work a lot, except I'm firing you, and the business doesn't exist by the end of the day.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's so
You're
weird.
his perfect employee because you can handle that.
Yeah, because you're like,
Every once in a while now he'll be like, so how was the play? And I'm like, well, you didn't fucking come. And that's the day. You know, every once in a while I'll be really mad at him. It all comes out in a place that we weren't expecting.
So how did I read this and not know that Quetzal was a vampire the first time I read it?
He talks
I
about
was
his
thinking about
fangs
Yeah,
It
his
talks
fangs.
about his fangs.
Yeah.
It's like
a couple times.
And his like bat nose,
Yeah.
kind of like
I mean, I can only imagine that I
He can
thought that this
fly.
was figurative language of like, oh, he's
Right.
an evil politician. Okay, I get it.
That's really normal. I mean, WOLFE is so layered. Like, how are you supposed to, like, how is your brain supposed to pick up what's being literally described, right, on a first read? That's hard.
I think that I just thought like I think I like created this thing in my head where he had like augmented his teeth because he's like a weirdo or something.
Yeah.
But like looking back, it's like, well, of course, you know, you're not going to remember all this stuff and remember like Teasel and then, you know, the devils being mentioned and stuff and be like, oh,
Yeah. Well,
blood
it's crazy that there's that
demons.
there's that callback to Teasel, where he's like, I saw it scratch on 5 floors up yesterday,
Yeah.
and went wide. Yeah, which is like, okay, yeah, we've seen Silk's name written in graffiti. That's what that means. When it's 5 floors,
5
he's
floors
given us
up,
the
yeah.
exact location of where he, you know, like Silk wanted to get rid of the.
I mean, it even says
vampire
at the
that
end
was-
of the section that he can fly. Like the last line
Yes.
Yeah.
of this section before it goes to Aachen and
Yeah.
Chenille is yeah. Even in this downpour, the tree was safer, though he could fly.
Oh, in so many words.
That's exactly what it says. Yeah.
Yeah. He can fly.
He does that thing. He like buries stuff sometimes, and sometimes he just sticks it right out there, but you like can't even see it
Because he
it's
goes
like-
so fast.
Yeah.
Well, there's so
all this
much.
other stuff.
There's so
You're
much
like, "Ah, what the
dialogue.
fuck?"
I think if you're just reading this first part of the chapter, like more casually, you're just gonna get a lot of the dialogue and the little physical details you're maybe not gonna pick up on as immediately. because I knew going into this that Quetzal was a vampire. I like saw it immediately.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes me feel really, really thick. I cannot possibly put myself back in that place where I was reading through this, and then it was a surprise to me at the very end when we started talking about.
Well, you're not looking for vampires.
No, you're
Yeah,
really
right.
not.
There's
Well,
no
also-
precedent for vampires.
Also, like the fangs are mentioned, and then it's revealed like what 1,000 pages later, probably. Like, not 1,000, but like you're like 3 books later. You're gonna read it like next year. You're not gonna be like, oh yeah, that little detail from those 2 pages. You're not gonna be, you could forget it in that amount of time.
Yeah. We've talked about how I think that Quetzal has fed. I think that he ate pike.
Oh, I think you did mention that.
Because there's a bunch of stuff when like Silk is kind of delirious at home that he talks about, and then Father Pike did this, and the ghost. And he figures that the ghost of Pike is in his Mantian, and also at times he thinks that Oreb has flown away when he definitely wasn't there, and I think all of that is Quetzal visiting the Mantian, because I think he did it regularly to feed on Pike.
Oh, because he heard. Right, that scene where he hears, but Oreb couldn't find Oreb because his wing is broken. Oreb keep moving. It wasn't me, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't me. I was down here. My wing is broken. And so it's like, oh, Oreb, I know you were sneaking up on me.
But I think that's Quetzal.
I would bet
That makes
$5 that there's some sort of link between Quetzal and eating fish. Like Quetzal the animal and Pike the animal. I bet you that there's something in there about a story or some sort of natural fact
Yeah.
that would link that as the pike as a somewhat natural prey
You know,
for
now
a
that we're
Quetzal.
talking about it, I mean, this isn't following your point exactly, Ryan, but there is like a theme throughout this book of people transferring themselves to other people or it being taken away, right? Like, think about like Rose, Marble and Mint. Like, they're like literally like taking their bodies, and then with Quetzal is sucking essence and life force from human beings, so he's like doing that in a predatory sense. Then there's also the whole thing about just like the psyches and personas of the gods like transferring themselves and taking little bits of like their subjects through the screens. Like, it seems like that's like a little bit of a theme here, although I'm not sure how that's explored through Quetzal.
I think it's a theme in the whole solar cycle, because
Well, sure,
Severian's
Elzada.
constantly doing
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I think in a way that's part of this is like it trying to explore what's under the waterline of human motivations. And like him kind of like, instead of just saying like, well, there's things that there's like forces that make us do things that are primal or instinctual.
Or that idea that like it's purely like self-motivated.
Right, yeah.
Like,
and I think
heroes
he's
are
saying like
self-motivated.
none of it's self-motivated. It's
Right.
this whole interplay of identity is all occurring underneath of our ego. And here, like, he's actually trying to trace some of those movements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or like
there's the part of me that lives in me, and the part of me that lives in your mind.
Right, in the
and
way
part
that
of you lives in mine. Right.
history directly influences, right? Like literally influences, like what happens afterwards, like if you, like in that same way, like the people like literally like live on and transfer their energies into people, if that makes
We got
sense,
some Johann input. He said it's the theme of in all the solar cycle. It's all variations of the Eucharist. Which is why he thinks Wolfe is hyper Catholic, because the Eucharist is everywhere.
Yeah,
It
totally.
makes a lot of sense. He also said
This is also an essential thing in Dune, the Tao of Siege order.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Yeah.
He's also saying that like the vampire thing maybe goes unnoticed because the last few chapters of Lake, in the last few chapters of Lake, Wolfe throws everything except for vampires at you, and so you just don't see the vampires.
Yeah, I guess
Well, then
that's
I
true. You
think
did just
I
see the
think
cyber.
I think too, at least for me, the first time reading once you've read, it's like if you do the normal thing where you read New Sun and then you read New Sun again before you read Long Sun, where you like understand like the implications of what Wolfe is doing on a larger scale by the time you get to Long Sun, then the first read through of Long Sun you're gonna just be like, there's gonna be shit I don't understand, and you
Yeah.
kind of just allow, and that's, I mean, at least I do.
Yep.
It's like you allow your brain to just like, okay, well that doesn't make sense to me. I'm just gonna keep reading, and then like the next time I read this, it's gonna make sense to me.
Exactly.
And
You have to have an
otherwise
acceptance
you would
read
get
and then an analytical.
otherwise you would get hung up on every little fucking thing like that that happens. And there's already been like 100,000 things by the third book. There's been 100,000 things
Yeah.
that have already happened where you're like, well, I'm gonna have to figure that out later.
I can't imagine.
I'll just
trying
keep
to,
going through.
Can't imagine trying to read these books with the goal of figuring everything out.
Well, I,
I mean,
think
we talk
when
about that
people
all
do,
the time,
I
but
think
it
when
just, like,
people
blows my
do,
mind.
they quit.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so, in order to do it, it's like the first read of any Wolf book. You just have to be like, okay,
Let it
I'm
wash
just
over
gonna,
you.
yeah, I'm just gonna read through it, and like things
it
I
helps to
understand.
have tripped.
Yeah.
You have to have the same kind of mindset. Like
Yeah.
nothing will make any sense and it'll be over.
Yeah,
I think.
but so
yeah.
I think that it makes sense. It's funny because it's like in that way he's able to just like hide things in plain sight in this way because
Like-
you're just like, okay, well, there's already so much stuff I don't understand.
Right.
You know, is he being figurative? Like, what is he saying? We'll
Yeah,
sort
I
that
think-
out
I think
later.
maybe some of the impetus too to read like a lot of philosophy. Like if you're reading written philosophy, you kind of do have to, like, the first time you read it, let it wash over you,
Sure.
and then you dig into it. And because it's usually carefully structured arguments, you can actually figure out what they're trying to say in a more objective way. And so maybe if you're that kind of person, like your impetus is still like to like even if you're accepting some of the like, I'm not going to get this the first read through, you're maybe still trying to dig into it and figure out that argument. Like you're trying to find the argument. That,
You're organizing.
yeah, you're trying to organize
Yeah.
it. And so I think, you know, that's maybe the sections of the subsets of the Gene Wolfe fandom that we beef with. I think are analytically minded to the point that, and almost certainly not psychedelically minded to the point where they're thinking like, okay, like all of this stuff is just one way of saying one thing. There's a particular thing that's being said here, and we can figure it out. And we're just not on that page
Well, I definitely
We're reading a
read.
book.
because we're reading a novel,
Yeah.
and not a treatise.
Yeah.
I definitely read Gene Wolfe in a different way than, like, say, I watch an hour-long television drama, where, like, the game in the hour-long television drama is, can I figure out what 5 plot points from now will be, and can I say this line along with the actor? And reading Gene Wolfe is just like, I have to gather each thing he's saying so that I have to. I can't predict anything in this. I can't try to be smarter than this book. I can only accept what it's doing.
Yeah, and you're never going to be able to determine which are. It's so hard to figure out which things are going to be important.
Right,
It's all important in some way.
And that's why you can't figure it out.
Yeah, there's nothing that's tossed off at all, but you're not going to retain every little
Right.
moment over the course of
You
one
have to be
read-through.
willing to learn
Yeah.
to read Wolf at all. Like you have to be able to approach it in a way that he knows something you don't, and he can teach it to you, which is like
And you'll never have it. You have to. Each book, you have to learn a new set of skills.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world each time.
Yeah.
He's like a sensei at the top of the mountain, and you have to, like, you know, why is he asking me to sweep the stairs? I just gotta sweep them. It's gonna mean like I'll get something out of it because he wouldn't have asked me to do it if I.
That's why.
didn't.
Yeah. That's why there's some people that we know who have read these books who are not a part of this club. I think. there's a, I don't know. I know we know at least one person who read like all of the books like 3 years ago in one go.
But who doesn't
And
have
then-
something to learn from
Yeah, I think.
I would be interested to see what Schwem would do in this group. I'm interested how Schwem read these books because
Right.
Schwem read them.
Shrim was in this book or this group.
He
not
can't
this
what
book.
like whoa.
Good Lord!
Do you see what that cat did? He's knocking over.
But I feel like he read these books and it must have been in some weird way because I feel like he read these books and was just like, a bunch of normal books, cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know how that could have happened.
Yeah, there's another person we know who read all the books and was just read them like they were normal sci-fi novels or something, and then seemed to have very boring takes.
Yeah, how can you read this and never have a thought about it?
He switched. He was talking about something. I think he thought
No,
somebody
he-
else.
I'm not talking about
Talking
Schwem.
about?
I'm talking.
There's only.
You don't have to sit like.
You know who.
Think
it
of
is.
all the
No,
people
who
that
is
have
it?
been a
Can
part of
you
this
just
group.
do like?
I think I know.
Think of all the people that
he's
have
a
been in this group.
he's a real Punisher.
Think of.
No, he hasn't been in this group.
Oh shit! So I'm thinking of a third person.
Oh, man,
Oh
yeah,
my
it's-
God.
there
Can
are
you
these
do
people in the
initials?
world. JF.
You're see, yeah, you're not. I don't think
I don't know who Ryan's thinking of.
you are not thinking
I
of
think
this
I know
person.
who you're thinking of.
Oh, you do think you don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
But
I
I
wouldn't have
didn't
thought
know.
him
But I
first.
didn't know.
I'll call him the Punisher.
Wait,
AKA the one with
potentially watching right now.
The one of Jordan's reply guys on Twitter
Potentially
with the
watching
worst takes.
Anyway, should we?
I just want to know whoever.
That's
Well,
fine.
you could write it down on a piece of paper.
Oh,
and slide
man,
it
We'll
no,
down.
just
I
talk
had-
about it when we turn the
Take a
camera
little
off.
I got the
sip,
most
That's
intense reply guy yesterday where my tweet that was like I accidentally wrote oat milk on my to-do list,
Yeah.
and they replied like, that sounds much more healthy than oily oat milk. Where do you find it? And I was just like, fuck you.
Is it somebody you know?
We can talk about it.
Okay,
No,
it's
it's
fine.
not someone I know, but I have a funny.
Is it the Lady Pie Face?
No.
Okay. That person responds to everything.
Yeah, that.
Oh, I
really-
soft blocked them because I was weirded out.
I adore that person.
I thought that was you for a little bit. Is it?
For a while.
No,
It's
no,
not.
I really do truly adore that person. It's maybe the
Okay.
I think they
one
came
of three
from,
people on Twitter I actually.
They
post.
came from Mushroom Matt, I think. He first attached himself to Mushroom
Oh.
Matt, and because I asked him like, who is this? He's like, I have no idea. I'm
No,
terrible at it."
I asked them and they said they saw the cyberpunk role playing that we were doing.
What? Somebody
Wait,
watched that?
The Shadowrun
That's
stuff?
what- That's what they
We
told
should
me.
pick that back up too
That's
because
what
it was
they
at a
told me.
really, really
Oh yeah,
important point for
He's
my
got a
character.
Very good point.
Yeah,
Everyone's
I got it.
character.
I would love.
Well,
to
we
do
can
that.
all be
all
in
those
the-
files are saved on my Google.
That's so
Drive, yeah.
surprising.
We can all be in the
That's
same
That's
room
what they
again,
told me,
so.
Well,
But I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Well, it could
Maybe
have
for
been-
another week.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I take it back. All they told me is that they saw me playing a game online, and that's why they followed me. Because I asked. I was like,
That would have
"Why
been the
do you-"
one.
Yeah,
Right? Because we
that's the
didn't
only
we
game
didn't
I
do
played
the
online.
we didn't do a stream for Dungeon World, and
Right.
then,
Right.
or for Miseries and Misfortunes.
And so that would make sense why this person
Yeah.
That does
But
make
then,
sense.
but there was no link to my Twitter handle, so it all feels very strange.
Someone one of us may have wrote on Twitter and then they figured out who everyone was.
Who
and They
knows?
just
Yeah.
went following in front.
Oh
of
yeah, or maybe they were looking for Shadowrun material.
I definitely talked about that
And I
Shadowrun game on Twitter.
I think I probably talked about it on Twitter.
Came from Connor.
Yohan says it sounds like Oak Milk was stumbling onto code, and the obvious coded responses were given.
Wait, what?
That's Johan said it sounds like Oak Milk was stumbling onto code, and the obvious coded responses was given.
I see. I accidentally said the pelagic Argosy sites land.
Oh, wolf jokes.
Yeah, bring in the oat milk critics.
Does anyone have anything to say about this Scylla section?
Yeah.
Oh wait, are you jumping? I
Oh,
have.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to move it along.
No,
that's no.
Before we do, we
should
have
talk
to talk about Quetzal's Virgin of the Garden of Eden.
Okay,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was so strange.
Oh, I love it. This is
was
one of my
so
favorite
strange.
genres of
Yeah.
writing. Is
Yeah,
like
I think
the
it's around.
it's
here.
like the inside out, very well known story.
Oh, this is where we find out about Allah too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
God, all
So no one ever asks why the cobra wanted Woman to eat his fruit. From sheer wickedness, you're cognizant? That's what I always supposed. Quetzal swayed faster, his face solemn, in order that she would climb his tree, Patera. The man likewise. Their story's not over because they haven't climbed down. That's why I asked if you had considered the nature of humor. So great. So we know. So Quetzal's a snake, and he sees the story from the point of view of the snake.
it's been a while since I've read this too, but Quetzal is having this whole mental process happening underneath this whole scene, right? And this is part of it. But now, sorry, it's been a while since I've like deeply read this chapter, but Quetzal comes to a realization over the course of this, right? About Silk. He's thinking about something, right? Oh man,
It does seem
This
that way.
whole
It
time
seems like
he's
he's
figuring
talking
something
through
out.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's figuring
he's
stuff
figuring
out.
something out, and Remora is just kind of there, like. But anyway, I mean, not to disturb it. This is like part of his whole like thought process because he's thinking about what to do about Silk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But and so he's playing this little mental.
Yeah,
game
he's
with
figuring
Because
out his
he's-
next step.
Yeah, because he knows that Lemur is dead, and he knows that Silk is like on the rise, and he's trying to figure out like where to cast his.
He seems to know that.
How do you
Incas
hold a
got kicked off a
rainbow
boat.
in your-
The moonbeam.
Yeah.
The moonbeam.
What?
Incas is like
oh, well,
full-
I don't like sound music.
This is like a everything about this chapter, or at least this Quetzal part, is like a
Sorry.
trope,
No, you're right.
a villain,
Yeah.
like a super villain trope.
Yeah.
Or horror villain trope, where he's got his Renfield there, who's like, but instead of being like the dumb Igor, it's like the
Jeff
the
Goldblum.
confused Jeff Goldblum. Yeah,
Tom Waits, I think he can be Tom Waitsy.
yeah he could.
Remora.
Well, if he's being Renfield, he'd be Tom Waits in the Francis Ford
Right.
Coppola.
Yeah.
I think you put.
Tom Waits can be a slippery kind of guy.
Yeah, I think you put some spectacles on Tom Waits, he could do Remora real good.
Yeah.
Tom Waits doing a Jeff Goldblum impression.
Finally.
I gotta say,
I cannot even imagine what that would be like.
I do not think of his ums and ahs like Jeff Goldblum.
I can only read it like Jeff Goldblum. It's like I don't know.
I actually think of his speech patterns to be more like Jordan's.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Am I Remora?
Oh, that would be so cute.
Are you
So,
Jeff
like,
Goldblum?
I feel like his ums and ahs, and the ums and ahs are tied in with how he hazards a word and then finds a better word. And I think you do that a lot.
I do that a lot.
Hmm,
Very true.
interesting.
So I think of Remora as Jordan.
It'd be an interesting casting.
I like
Now I think of Jordan as Jeff Goldblum.
Could happen.
Why not?
If we both went into the transporter at the same time.
That's right. That's right.
Oh no, Tuvix.
So so all the interesting things about this story is it's so short, but it's different than the one we know. And part of the biggest difference to me is that it's the snake's tree.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's motivated. He just wants the woman to climb the tree, not to eat the fruit.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like
And there's sort of
twist
the
here?
well, I feel like the fact that it's the tree belongs to the snake is the big twist to me. That it's
Yeah.
not God's tree. It's not like the tree of the universe. That's the snake's tree.
Yeah.
And
Which is kind of lurking around in our story as well.
Yeah, it's the
Mm.
trees.
The Caduceus.
Yeah.
Or the Tree of Life.
wait, our story being Long Sun.
No, our story being the Bible.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes. Uh-huh. And
Our
it's
story.
so weird that the more time goes on, the more that the weird, silly story of Adam and Eve makes more and more sense, and that the big thing I feel like that gets lost in the story of Adam and Eve is the name of the fucking tree, because it's not the tree of life. It's the tree of
Of
it's
knowledge,
not-
knowledge of good and
Knowledge of
evil.
good
It's
and
not
evil,
even the
yeah.
tree of good and evil. It's the tree of
Knowledge of good and evil.
Which is why the snake is what takes you there.
Yeah. Well, also, this is cool when you think about like green, Quetzal and green. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
It's like a snake that wants you to go into the tree.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like Quetzal's version is like, yo, the snake wants you to go in the fucking tree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all want you to come to green. Come on down
Yeah.
to green.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about climbing the tree, so I feel like from the snake's point of view, the eating has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Right.
And
No, it does, because the fruit is what the snake offers you to get you into the tree.
right.
Yeah.
But you eating it is not the point.
Right.
Correct.
Right. and that.
But it's still an essential
Yeah,
element.
but the human up in the tree is like, I have eaten the fruit, and that's what's important, and that's why things are different. It's because
Yeah.
I ate the fruit.
But the weird thing is, why don't they climb down after they're finished eating the fruit in this story?
Because they
there's-
think they've changed.
Yeah.
Oh well, and
the
also
tree is
underneath that, have you ever climbed a tree? Once you're up there, it's real scary. That's why cats are always getting.
the tree. The
It's,
tree.
it's
is,
so much scarier to climb back down because now I'm better than everybody. I can see you
So-
all. If I go back down, I'm just like you again.
So
I
maybe
suck.
Penny
Shit.
goes down on a rope. He just slides down a rope.
But
then
that's
he's enlightened.
No, that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
He's thought about it before he went up.
But
He's got a plan.
I feel like
they're
in
too
the
afraid to come down.
Yeah.
But I
That's
feel
the
like
story.
also in this
Yeah. Interesting.
version, it's like being in the tree is like the tree is the new world. Like you're in like the new reality is inside of the tree.
Yeah.
It's the omniverse.
Wait, say again.
Like the tree is the new reality. Like when
Back
you're
up.
in
Go
the
before
tree.
before you're talking about.
That's what I think is happening.
In this story,
In this
going
version.
into the tree is going into a new reality,
Yeah.
right?
It's going
And
into
then
the
you're
world
too-
where you know what good and evil
and then you're too afraid. You're not even afraid. Then you just
Well, you're
don't
just
go
in
back.
there
Yeah,
now.
like who knows what's inside the tree? But why does he like ask? Why does this lead him to? How is this related to the nature of humor for him, though?
I think he's saying
Yeah.
that's why the snake called them up. The snake
As a
thinks
joke.
it's funny to see a deluded man up there in the tree
And
thinking
is-
that they're in a whole new
And
world.
does the
Well,
snake
but-
represent humor? And that also reminds me of Name of the Rose, because that's like the whole thing is they're trying to suppress humor. I don't know if anyone's read that, but that was like the motivation of like the evil, like monk in Name of the Rose, is that he didn't want like the I think someone's comedy, maybe like Ovid or someone wrote a comedy that he wanted to suppress. And so that's like the whole premise of that book. And the idea being is that the monks didn't want humor getting out. But anyway, the idea of humor being evil.
Well, I think that it's okay.
What
so
is the joke here before we go on further?
That they went up into a tree.
yeah,
I
that
think-
humans are deluded. That
Is
they
the joke is but then he says it's Patera Inc is a strong swimmer, and that feels like a joke to me.
Wait,
yeah,
hold
but
on. I'm not ready
That's
for
a
that.
segue.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, sorry.
Is the joke not that the snake tricked humans into going up in a tree to eat a fruit of knowledge, and they're too stupid to then figure out how to get out of the tree, and that they think that being up in the tree and having the fruit is smart and knowledge, but really like after you've done that you have to get out of the tree for it to matter.
Yeah.
And therein is the joke.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be that they're just stuck in the tree, and that's the funny part.
Yeah, that's
That is exactly what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just how are they stuck?
Yeah.
Like they went up in the tree to do a thing, but being stuck in the tree is the opposite of the
Yeah.
thing that they
Right.
ostensibly do.
Right.
And I think that so the nature of humor, I think, comes into this in that so the knowledge of good and evil is a trick.
Yes.
So there isn't
Which
evil.
is the entire thing with the Inhumai.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So that
And
That's like
also our
Isn't
story,
that
the Bible.
like it's fair to say that that's the whole entire point of like the plot with the Inhumai,
I think so.
right?
Yeah.
That's the like whole
Yeah.
point of it. The main point is like the idea of good and evil is like
yes.
insane and hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to climb
And
down
so-
the tree.
Yeah.
So like it isn't evil that got people to that point because there is no evil. Evil is our invention of like our perspective on things that are already there. And so what caused this bad stuff? Like how have we gotten to a point where we want to where it appears that a villain has done this? Because humor is real.
Wait.
Humor is in the universe, even if evil isn't real.
But the only quibble I have with that is what caused the bad stuff. The stuff isn't bad.
Right.
The
That's
stuff
what I'm
is
saying.
necessary.
Like I'm saying from our point of view, like how could there not be evil? Look, there's bad stuff. And it's
Right.
like we've decided to call it evil and the whole ball gets rolling with us starting to think like that because there is humor in the universe.
Anne has a lot of friends that like to talk about original sin on Facebook. I have to bite my tongue a lot. Like what? Of course, Catholics are all abusers because they believe that babies have sin. That's fucked up. That's rapey itself. And I really all the time have to bite my tongue from telling them that they don't understand what a sin is.
Yeah. I mean, that's like Adam and Eve. I feel like Original Sin is a story that, like, when I was a kid, I was like, that's strange. And then when I was a teenager, I was like, that's fucked up. And then, like, now I'm old, I'm like, oh, wow, that really is a safety mechanism. But, like, when you have Original Sin, you can't destroy your enemies for being wrong.
Well, and like the whole question of like, how can God allow bad things to happen if he's all good and all powerful and stuff? But like, no.
Some real entry level skepticism.
Right. Like the bad things have to happen because God doesn't exist unless we love each other anyways in the face of bad things, because that's what God is, kind of.
It's kind of it's like empathy and compassion and stuff. If you have empathy and compassion for someone who it's easy to have empathy and compassion for, or who you are benefited by having empathy and compassion for, you're not having empathy and compassion.
You can't heal without having been hurt.
But but also, I mean, we get back to that place of like, evil is our judgment that we calling on things that have happened, not a force in the universe that we can point to.
Right. It's like babies calling a growth spurt evil because it hurts.
There you go.
Or global warming.
How about this little nugget? The jokes of gods are long telling.
I was just
Yeah.
looking at that.
Yeah.
It's
And,
good.
like okay, shoot me down, but do we want to do something radical?
I think so.
Do you want to like just read these 2 pages, just the dialogue, out loud, just so you kind of follow the whole thought, beginning with, since we're talking about it, and feel free, this is Lennon to say now, but like starting with where he asks him to contemplate humor.
Okay.
Tara, please do while you were gone contemplate.
Wait. Let's cast it.
Yeah, right.
Remora Jordan.
Yeah.
Who's Quetzal?
I feel like it's got to be Connor.
I feel like that
I didn't want to say
Tim, your narrator, stage directions.
Okay. But we'll focus on the dialogue.
Which
do you want to do?
You want to just do the dialogue?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
But yeah, starting with I
Ooh, a
guess.
new segment.
Yeah. And the reason is
Only 110 episodes in, we have like a thing.
but I think it's really
57
useful here. This is like almost like
That's a lot. Is it really
filmic scene.
57?
Yeah,
This
totally.
is like a scene, and
Technically, I call this one 57.5.
I want to try to follow Remora's what's
Oh, did we
going
get
on
on
in
the air
Quetzal's
last time?
brain
Okay.
through this section. Like, let's see if we can, if this will help us solidify what might be going on in Quetzal's brain as he's kind of.
What's
like,
he working on?
Yeah. It's from maybe like I fear not your cognizance, ish. So or I can go
humor.
anywhere else, but oh yeah.
While you were
where are
gone,
we?
I was
yeah.
contemplating the nature of humor.
Well, if we
Remember
start with yes, Patera, then we start with the actual beginning of the interaction.
Okay,
so let's
start
do
with
that. Yeah. Let's do that.
Yes, Patera, what is it now? Is it time already?
Your beef tea, your cognizance. Shall I decant a cup for you? I have obtained a clean cup for the purpose.
Do, Patera, please do. While you were gone, I was contemplating the nature of humor. Have you considered it?
I fear not your cognizance.
What's become of young Incus? You hadn't expected him to be gone so long.
No, your cognizance. I dispatched him to Limna. I am moderately concerned and modicum of civil unrest last night. Eh? This stripling Silk, Patera Silk, alas, I know him.
My prothonatory told me. I'd have thought that Limna would be safer.
As would I, your cognizance. As did I.
Drink
I-
your beef tea.
I sent him in search of a individual, your cognizance, acquaintance of this Patera Silks. The civil guard is searching for Patera himself, hey? As are certain other parties. So I am told. This morning, your cognizance, I dispatch still others to look for young Incas. The rain, however, necessitous, will hamper them all.
Do you swim, Batera?
Your cognizance? At the, lakeside, you mean? No. Or at least not for many years.
Nor I.
A healthful exercise, however, for those, augmented years. For those, unaugmented years, eh? A hot bath before sacrifice, your cognizance? Or, I have it, springs. There are, reborn springs at herbs. Healing springs, most healthful. Possibly, while, affairs are so, unsettled here, eh?
The gods.
Must be served to be sure, your cognizance. I would be on the spot, ensuring that the chapter's interests were vigilantly safeguarded, hey? Each rite carried out with,
You must recall the story, Patera. A-man and woe-man, like rabbits in the garden. What do you call them?
a cobra, your cognizance?
The cobra persuaded woe-man to eat fruit from his tree, miraculous fruit whose taste conferred wisdom.
I recollect the, allegory.
It's all in the writings, or nearly all. A god called Allah barred woe-man and her husband from the garden. We seem to have lost sight of Allah, by the way. I can't recall a single sacrifice to him. No one ever asks why the cobra wanted woe-man to eat his fruit.
From sheer, wickedness, your cognizance. That's what I had always supposed.
In order that she would climb his tree, Patera. The man likewise. This story's not over because they haven't climbed down. And that's why I asked if you had considered the nature of humor. Is Patera Incas a strong swimmer?
Why, I have, no notion, your cognizance.
Because you think you know why the woman you sent him to look for visited the lake with our scamp Silk, whose name I see on walls.
Why, your cognizance is, great penetration as always.
I saw it scratched on one 5 floors up yesterday. It went wide.
Disgraceful, your cognizance.
Respect for our cloth, Patera. I myself swim well. Not so well as a fish, but very well indeed. Or I did.
I'm pleased to hear it, your cognizance.
The jokes of the god are long in telling. That's why you ought to sift through the records of the past on Hyrix days, Patera. Today's Hyrix day. You'll learn to think in new and better ways. Thank you for my beef tea. Now go.
As your cognizance desires.
I guess, do you want to cut it there?
Yeah.
What's the joke?
Well, I think there's many jokes happening.
But what joke is he referring
Well,
to on
I-
the surface, at least?
I think one of them is that I think he's comparing the snake in the tree to Remora
Sending Incas
Yeah.
after.
on this, right?
Yes. I also think he's comparing Typhon sending people up into a world ship, and they don't know that it's a world ship that they're supposed to
Get
out
off
of.
of.
Down out
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Oh,
About that.
there it is. There's a whole. I mean, you can stop reading there if you want.
Well, and the just this like and also the good and evil thing with humans in Huma.
Right. Well, and
Or at least
also
Jean
like
is saying that.
also there's this thing like when he's like, I swim or I used to. You know, and it's like what belongs in the tree? The snake belongs in the tree. So like he's the guy, like you guys don't even know what the fuck is happening, but I do.
Yeah.
But I think to a degree he's like, or I used to, you know, like
Yeah.
I recognize that I've changed because I've been hanging out with you dummies.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So in that way, the joke's on him.
But also, it's like there's an element with the Inhumai
that's like you dummies, but also it's like their whole aspiration is to be human.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Right.
there's that whole like cyclical thing. There's like multiple cyclical things.
If he means the gods here, right, like Typhon and his family, then Typhon's telling the joke right now, right? That this is like the joke.
No, but
Well, at
he's
one
talking
level-
about Allah though.
Yeah,
Which
okay,
is
but all
outs-
of the
he's-
gods,
Which is
okay.
also outside.
But I do think
the
that he's
outside.
also talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
in a way, Typhon is the snake that tricked all these people into.
Oh yeah,
into
Typhon is
tree.
the yeah. I think in the allegory, Typhon is the snake, and
Yeah.
the god making the joke is the outsider. Like the god who's making the joke is outside of these gods.
But only we're aware of that. Like Quetzal's not thinking about the outsider.
Yes,
Quetzal
he
is thinking
is.
about
He's
the
talking about
outsider.
Allah,
Oh, okay. And he-
which is
okay.
not pause. That's the outsider.
Well, yeah, we've
Well,
never
right.
sacrificed to this god.
Okay, so do you think Quetzal like has knowledge and takes seriously? Because most people in this world don't take the outsider seriously.
Well, even if he's not. He wouldn't call
Right,
it the
right.
outsider
Right, right.
necessarily.
Yeah, I'm just.
He's
using that
just
word.
talking about like God
Gods.
proper.
Gods, yeah, differently than the gods.
I think that like the only person in the solar cycle that knows more than Quetzal is Father in Nire, kind of stuff. You know, like I think Quetzal knows everything about what's going on this ship.
Yeah,
Like only the computer programs and some of the robots understand what as much as they would think. Because I think Quetzal gets a philosophy that the robots and the computer programs don't really understand.
Yeah.
it's just interesting that he's thinking about the nature of humor as he's describing this all. Like, because it's like, why is this a joke? Like,
Maybe
why
the
is-
flyers too
Why is
have.
why is the world a joke?
Well, but
They're
they're
up there.
technicians, so
Yeah,
they're,
but
like,
they still know more than most.
oh, they know more. But so
Not as much as Quetzal.
right, and I think that's all because of Quetzal drinking pike. And or maybe also Tussa. There was a point where I was thinking that Quetzal was drinking Tussa, but I think that he like just that he's able to like work it through it all because by thinking of it as a joke is so, and like the point of it is that's so human, and so like that's why that's where he goes off on that tangent of like I'm a good swimmer, or I used to be, because he's thinking about how much of this humanity, this humor, which allows him to understand. He's talking about in Hume, like climbing up the tree. I'm a lowly beast. Oh, and this fits in with the evil of agriculture.
Is he also not possibly talking about like Scylla bringing people to the lake?
I don't know. What do you mean?
I don't. Well, he keeps talking about swimming, and water
Yeah.
is Scylla,
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
and Scylla is in chenille. I don't know. I think like
Scylla's a big snake.
Scylla's a snake.
I don't know how to think about that yet because I'm still thinking the thing that I was thinking when you brought this up. Which is that, like, so in whom I start as these lowly beasts, they vampirize somebody, it makes them a human, which now they can realize what the process they just went through is, and that it's evil, but they wouldn't have been able to realize it if they hadn't have done the evil thing, and now they can't go back and undo it or be the thing they once were that didn't have to think of themselves as evil. Which explains a lot of Jahi's psychology in the next book.
Jali.
Yeah,
Jahi is from
you're right.
the play.
But aren't they the same person? Which that's the thing where I think that there's a little bit of Short Sun and New Sun, is that I think parts of Short Sun are in the play Eschatology and Genesis.
Ooh. That's interesting.
Oh, most definitely. They have to be.
I mean, it would make a lot of sense for Gene to return to that, and like, there's so much. That's such a rich passage of New Sun that like, it would make so much sense for him to get to the end of New Sun and be like, I think there's more stuff in that play though.
Well, just the name of that character and that she's so sexy, and then Jolly trying to seduce Koyo. I don't know. But anyway, so sorry I had to get through that thought before we get to Scylla.
So yeah, I think do we find this out?
Oh, but yeah, it is
He's
because that's the
talking
whole
about
lake
swimming
trip
a
that he keeps
lot.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's hiding in that lake is the people who have built themselves into robots and can't realize. How
Also
that's
true,
evil.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we get, I mean, this is like basic as hell, but we also are getting that new sun, ocean and space as just one continuum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where like he clearly Quetzal sees no difference between swimming in space and swimming in terrestrial water. I mean, he
Yeah.
says it's like a fish.
Yeah.
Is that what he meant? Like swimming through space?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'd
Which
stake
is an
Laura.
imagery that goes back to Sumeria. Like Tiamat is the void of that the stars are in, which is also clearly part of the ocean.
Well, New Sun too. There's the fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, which
mirrors.
swims out of our universe entirely.
Yeah.
I clearly. I mean, we've always known this. We call them spaceships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I've never called them anything else.
Space cars.
Space truck.
There are space trains.
Cowboy
Galactic
Bebop has
Express
awesome
99.
space trucks in it.
Yeah.
Space
get me
trucking
started
culture
on
in Cowboy
Cowboy
Bebop
Bebop.
so good. Oh, are you mad at it or good? Or are you
I
good?
don't like the new one.
Yeah.
Is the
live
cartoon
action.
as violent?
Cartoon's very violent.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I saw like the first scene of the live action thing, and I was like, "Wow." This
One of
is
my favorite episodes of the cartoon is about this 12-year-old boy who can't get older, and the only thing that can happen is that he has to shoot the kid in the eye with a piece of a moon to kill him.
cool.
But he has to shoot this 12-year-old boy.
What a great show.
Yeah.
So cool.
And the boy is the best at the blues harmonica.
It's like, I wonder, because one of the like, I mean, I guess maybe the most important moment in the anime Berserk, which I'd say is almost as popular as Cowboy Bebop, is when a small child has to be killed.
It's the first scene of the John Woo film Face Off.
Oh, yeah, God. Oh, Face Off. I want to take his face.
Great Asian stories and the murder of a small child is the theme of all those things.
Yeah, murder of a small child plays an interesting role in Asian cultures. We had that whole thing about China. You're only allowed to have one baby.
That's very good.
Our generation growing up with the image, to me, it seems that growing up with the way that China was presented to me, the killing of young children is an interesting thing for Asian culture.
It was like it was just presented to us as children as proof that they were like an alien species with no empathy for human life.
Right.
That they-
I mean, that goes back to the kamikaze in World War II, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we apply it to the jihadists. People who are willing to die are scary.
And should they even really be called people?
Right, exactly.
Isn't that the
Did they
essential
give
thing
up
about
people?
personhood? Is that you will do anything to stay alive?
Right, well,
Can I?
yes.
There's this. I'm just gonna interrupt. I don't even know what you guys are talking about because I'm not. I literally don't. And maybe you're talking about something interesting, but I don't know because
We are, but
I've
it's
been
fine.
trying to.
You
like,
can
get
watch
this.
the YouTube later.
Sorry. This one line has been getting to me though, and I was trying to find it. When he asks if Incus is a strong swimmer, and then he says, "I have no notion," and then he says, "Because you think you know why the woman you sent him to look for visited the lake with our scamp Silk, whose name I see on walls."
Right.
What do you think he thinks? What does Quetzal think Incus or Remora thinks is the reason? I just don't get what he's getting at in this line. It's annoying.
Well, does Remora know that Chenille is possessed? And does Quetzal?
Remora probably does not know, does he? No, he met her.
Remora met her.
So he might.
I
No.
think, and I don't know if I'm right, that Remora saw her accurately reported what her behavior was.
Mm-hmm.
Quetzal was able to recognize that Remora's not. I think, but I don't know.
Yes, I like that. That makes sense.
That Were you going in a different direction?
No, I don't know. I'm genuinely confused by that one.
Oh.
But that makes, I mean, and we're coming back to the idea that Quetzal has an awareness that about identity that is not available to the other people in this book
Yeah.
and on this world. And so he can understand possession because he's got something to relate it to. He understands that sometimes you're not all of you, or that what you are is not just you. So,
And then the not you thing is manipulating you
yes.
in a certain way.
Yeah. Which is, I think, kind of analogous
But they're
to
talking about the reason for visiting the lake.
They're talking about the reason that the woman went with Silk to visit the lake.
Right.
And the reason is she's possessed. The reason is like you're looking for in the wrong place for the reason to try to find Chenille, the regular woman's reason. You need to find Scylla's reason.
I think that there's even
She's
a
not
degree
yet
of, like,
possessed by Scylla.
she's
Yeah.
with
She-
Cyprus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I think that so he said is Patera Incus a strong swimmer? Well, I have no notion, your guidance is because you think you know why the woman you sent him to look for visited the lake with Scamp Silk, whose name is Ann Walls. He's saying like Incus doesn't know what he's getting into. The gods are involved, and you think that this woman went with Silk, but Silk went with this woman. She's in charge here.
So is he saying like? Okay.
I think
He's
again,
like-
I don't know.
Do you know if Incus can swim? And he's like, I don't really know if he can swim or not. And he's like, oh, because you don't know what the fuck is going on, and if you did, then you would want to know whether he can swim or not, because
Right.
he's getting in that goddamn lake.
Well, I mean, I also think it's a joking
Right?
metaphor because, like, do you know if this kid can swim? You just threw him in the deep end
Right.
in a metaphoric way.
Right,
You know?
All these things are good.
You know.
Yeah, Gene doesn't write much down unless he can get like 2 or 3 things out of it.
No, I just feel like there was something in that line. It seems kind of like a throwaway.
Yeah, I feel like
Almost.
swim means something different every time he's
Because he
playing
keeps
with
like
that.
going to the swimming thing.
Mhm.
And I think the swimming thing.
Do you guys
This is
watch
sound.
Silicon Valley?
I've seen
Yeah.
That early episode in the first season where the guy, the real smart money guy, like calls him in for a meeting and he has a Big Mac. He's just like, "What are these things on top of
Right.
this?"
It's very much like that.
And he keeps coming back to it, and in the end, you find out that he's made $1 billion off of sesame seeds.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I feel like that's what Quetzal is doing here, where
Absolutely.
he's just constantly asking a question, and you don't even know what that question has to do with the next question.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, he's so much richer than.
He's figuring something else, out. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's working on a very different level, and then Remora is just literally just like on just trying to follow along and like stumbling the whole way.
So I think there's an analogy here towards understanding psychology. That
Mhm.
like when you're a person that is looking for plots that are all involving people's stated motivations, you're remora, and like you like haven't scratched the surface, and that someone who understands that people have motivations that are not explicitly stated or even possibly known to them, then you're Quetzal, and you're like only looking under the surface.
Right.
When Remora talks, it's a declaration. When Quetzal talks, it's an experiment.
Quetzal definitely has. I mean, he's it's not fully like Socratic methoding, but like there's an element of that where he's
drawing things out.
and he's asking an interlocutor these questions in order to draw something out without necessarily saying it outright.
But it's not. I think you're right that it's not Socratic method, because I think the Socratic method is meant to lead the person that you're questioning to something, and
Right.
I think Quetzal doesn't give a shit about
But
where
he's-
Remora ends up.
Correct.
He wants
He's-
to. He's like, feed input in. What do I get out? I'm
Yeah,
gonna
he's-
go do
yeah,
something with
yeah.
it.
He's because it's not Socratic because he is giving answers to these questions, but there's an element of it where he's not giving him the real answer. You know, like he's not saying what he means to say.
Or well, he's saying
He's saying what he-
things, and he's just not actually saying them to Remora.
Right.
You know, I feel like that.
I love this.
Oh, you don't understand who that was. Okay.
I love this swimming thing.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
first he asks Remora if he swims. Do you swim? And he's like, no, not really. And then he's like, does Incus swim? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, I swim really well.
Yeah.
Or
Just like-
Or he used to.
Or, last time I checked.
I feel like it's written in a way too that when he first asks if he could swim, Remora's like the way I have to page back all the way, but I feel like it's written in a way that makes it sound like I went all the way up to the next skill part. It's written in a way that you can interpret what Quetzal says as being that he doesn't swim, but what he's saying is that he hasn't swum in a long time.
Oh, wait. He says, do you swim, Patera? And he says, your cognizance at the lakeside, you mean? No, or at least not for many years. And then he says, nor I.
Right. Which I initially read as being he doesn't swim either, but not in many years
right,
is
yes.
what he's saying.
Yeah.
And then he corrects, and then
Yes,
you get the correction a little later when he says, I swam like a fish, or I did.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can swim like a fish, but I did. That's like, I feel like
He
it's
was
such an
born swimming.
archetypal wolf deployment of wolfing there. Of like, if you read it as casually, you get a completely wrong sense. But then you get the tool to fix your sense, and then you should know, once you've applied that tool, that you have to do it to everything.
Yeah.
And this scene keeps going too. Like, even though that was a good place for us to stop, like, now go. Like, they still keep hashing things out. And earlier, when I was recalling, like, thinking about this scene and functioning as Quetzal's thoughts happening, beneath the surface, at the very last line on this page here, not the very last line, but in that he says he makes his decision here. So he's still thinking here, like, you'll learn to think in
he's
better
working
ways.
through
As
it.
the cognizant, as your cognizance desires, greatly daring Remora, I have observed that your own way of thinking is somewhat unlike those of most men. And then Remora, upon every topic, and he's like backing his way out, and like Quetzal's like, wait. And at that moment, he's made his decision.
Yeah.
Right? The riots. Has the Alhambra fallen? Like, he's like figuring something out, but what's his decision?
His
Like,
decision is that the chapter will support Silk.
yeah.
We're
So
throwing
he's
it.
made it at that point, but how did he made it right there, like the decision clicks to him there, like we see it happening. Like, what is it just happening in his head, or did something about how Remora is talking, or the jokes, is that still part of the joke? Is he trying to figure out what the punchline is? Is the punchline Silk, them supporting Silk,
All right, I have a hypothesis. I don't commit to it.
Yeah.
I think the key. So I feel like the decision he's making, the choices are support Silk
Right.
or support the pro-Simians. The pro-Simians is kind of supporting staying the system as it is, and supporting Silk, he can get people to go. Right? You can enact the get off the planet plan through Silk.
Yeah.
So the trigger then would be, reading with an actor eye, is I've often observed that your own way of thinking is somewhat unlike, as well as much more than that of other men.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a person. There's a whole planet of people that you're looking to feed.
Mm-hmm.
So you choose Silk to get these people off the planet, to Green to feed the Inhuman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think,
Mhm.
maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, we just, yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
There's a vibe to this to me, like going through it now, that reminds me of Adam West, but just with a much stupider Robin. When there's always that bit in the hour-long story where he's like, and he starts asking questions, and Robin doesn't really get it, and it's really just about him talking to himself.
Yeah.
Like, why is this? And it's like when he asks a question, it's like, this is
Oh, it's like when they're solving like a Riddler riddle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I know it's important,
it
but I need to
makes
say it. So
Or like
I
Holmes
say
and
that it's
Watson.
important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Right.
But what does Adam West have in common with Ketzel? They're both Batman.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That is true.
So part of me is like, that might this might be intentional. He might be calling to
the
them.
Adam West Batman solving a riddle though is like he makes these insane.
They're more
cognitive
jokes.
Oh
leaps.
yeah, they're
It's like,
jokes.
It's like just
They're
fully
jokes.
impossible.
A ballpoint banana.
Oh, you're right. You're right. S.
It's like, a ballpoint banana.
I bet that show's like way funnier now. Like when I watched it as a kid, I would like
The
watch it as a
movie.
drama.
I loved it so
I watched the
much.
movie recently, and it
Is
is
it shark spray?
Yeah.
phenomenal. It is so good.
I loved
It's-
that when I was a kid. I watched that movie
It's
1,000
the best
times.
iteration of Batman.
That's what ballpoint banana is from.
Yeah.
Dude, it is the best. It is
It
the best.
absolutely is the
All
best.
the villains are the best versions of
Yeah.
the
Except,
villains.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the
Dude,
caveat of-
Frank Gorshin Riddler.
Obviously,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
90s
Yeah.
cartoon is also the best, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that 60s movie is just
Yeah.
like
Dude,
it's really
it's
special.
so
Yeah.
good.
It's
I wanna watch
really
that again.
special.
I used to love that when I was a kid.
It
Oh,
treats
man.
the idea of men in costumes doing crimes and stopping crimes
The way it
with
ought to
the
be.
with the exact level of seriousness it deserves.
Right.
Is fucking Eartha Kitt Catwoman?
Not
One
in
of them.
that.
There's three Catwoman.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
Not in the. Oh yeah, it's a white lady in the. It's like
It's
that.
Julie
Julie
Newmar.
Yeah, yeah.
And, there's one other one. Crap, who was it? I should
But
say.
Eartha Kitt is on the TV show as
Yeah.
Catwoman.
Yeah,
It's-
at one point.
Like
Yeah.
she's in the Adam West like Batman.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think she's one of like three
Yeah,
people
the-
who play
yeah.
the same
The show
character.
is good too. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to watch that.
The show is really good.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. Going climbing the rope up the side of the building.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is when you get
The
they're frequently
exploding shark.
Right.
they're
That's-
frequently in a pit and they have to push their backs together and
Yeah.
walk up like the
Right,
pit.
right.
I used to, for some reason, when I was a kid, I thought that was like the coolest
Parkour.
thing. Yeah,
There's a big chance that all that's coming back.
I hope so.
They have comic books that take place in that universe, and DC's thing now is that like we're gonna have Michael Keaton come back and be Batman, and Ben Affleck is Batman, and we got a new one, and we're gonna have the 1960s
Not
Batman
Val
come in.
Kilmer though.
They-
No,
I-
have you seen Val Kilmer?
No.
He can't
No,
move.
No.
Really?
He
He's
like
not
just
doing well.
defeated horrible cancer.
Yeah.
That camera sounds like Big Dog when he talks.
Yeah, his voice is crazy.
So loud.
Yeah. Blame Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I will. I think we're the Joel Schumacher Batman movies are due for a reevaluation. I think
Is that
Beyond?
Tommy Lee Jones?
Forever
Oh,
and
Forever.
Batman and Robin.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they aren't bad, but they're also like. I think a lot of people don't realize what they were actually trying to do with them and how successful
Right.
they actually were at achieving the thing that they wanted.
They have the line "Holy rusty metal Batman."
Right.
Yeah,
There's holes in this rusty metal.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a great outfit.
Yeah.
It's like he's making a camp cartoon.
The one with
I just don't
Jim
like
Carrey
Photoshopped
and
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones. There's that one.
Yeah,
Arnold
and then
Schwarzenegger
yeah,
Uma
George
Thurman.
Clooney. Yeah, so the Val Kilmer and George Clooney movies were both Joel Schumacher.
Okay.
movies.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Tommy
You know-
Lee Jones, I feel like that whole movie, I can't see it as anything else but like a weird Tommy Lee Jones, like a weird sketch about Tommy Lee Jones losing his mind.
He only did it because his kids asked him to.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
and then he
Yeah.
did like the weirdest, most horrible job that seemed to be entirely fueled by his hatred of Jim Carrey, and yet
Yeah.
he became
No,
the thing he hated
literally
in the
hated
process.
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Like,
I
You
believe
cannot
that. I bet
condone
Jim,
your
I bet Jim
villainy.
Carrey
Jim
was like
Carrey
fucking
talked about
insufferable
that.
during the making of that
I
movie.
think-
I think he hated him.
And also for the rest of his life.
well, yeah.
I think he hated him before he ever met him. I think
Yeah.
it entirely had to do with his over and not
Yeah,
with
like,
the actual person.
Fuck this funny.
Yeah, like Jim Carrey was on the Norm Macdonald podcast that was on a few years ago.
Mhm.
Before
Before he
died.
Before he died.
Yeah, man, I love Norm Macdonald. But anyway, and he tells like he literally says like, yeah, Tommy Lee Jones like didn't like me at all. And I guess after the filming or whatever, like they happened to end up at the same restaurant one day.
Nope.
It was
During the film.
during-
Oh, it was during the film.
It was like before they went into some big scenes.
Okay, yeah, and he like sees him and like goes over, and Tommy Lee Jones just like looks at him and is just like, no, not talking to you.
And it's so cool to see that story and then turn on the movie and watch that like Tommy Lee Jones is being 1,000 times more what's bad about Jim Carrey. Not
Right.
that, I mean, I love Jim Carrey, person and actor.
Yeah.
But you know, like that Tommy Lee Jones, he like really, it's just like so elementary. Like he became the thing he hated and a worse version of it.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when you hate someone before you know them.
Well, he just never should have done that.
No.
Movie, you
No,
know, like
he's
I don't
right.
blame.
Doesn't make
I don't
sense.
blame what's his name, Tommy Lee Jones for hating that project and everything on it. There's just
But he
no
could
way
have.
that
There's a lot of ways he could have come at it, especially being given the character Two-Face, who's not really isn't the Riddler, isn't the Joker.
That's the Val Kilmer one.
Yeah. Batman Forever.
yeah. But I mean, I think that I
Nicole Kidman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a
Right.
romantic interest.
Yeah, she's
Right.
like a psychologist, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But yeah, I don't think all the people who worked on that were horrible. I think Joel Schumacher is hard to work with. I think that Val Kilmer was horrible to work with. I think that Chris O'Donnell seemed like he was bad to work with.
Wolf had a thing about Val Kilmer.
Oh, really?
Gene Wolfe?
Little Howlin' Wolf. Sorry.
Oh, Little
sorry. I forgot we were in Wolf Club.
Easy to do.
Love
Sorry,
to know how
I
people
forgot
felt
we
about
were in.
Joel
I
Schumacher.
think they're like two different words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's wolf
Yeah.
and then there's wolf, and I forget that they're the same word.
Well, Val
But
Kilmer
anyway.
left Van Deacon for a while.
Well, no, Little Howlin' Wolf
Mhm.
had a thing about Val Kilmer, which was like, because there were there was this cat in the alley. There were lots of cats in the West Side, obviously, and there was one really gnarly cat who was mostly gray with a little bit of white on its face, and Wolf always called him Val Kilmer.
Huh.
He's like, that's Val fucking Kilmer. But he was like, and then there was another cat that was like white with a little gray on its face, and it was like, then you had white face Val and gray face Val.
Uh-huh.
But Wolf's thing was like, yeah, Val Kilmer, he has this blemish on his face, and if you're working with him and he catches you looking at it, he fines you $1,000. So it was like there was a cat with a spot on its face. He's like, it's Val fucking Kilmer.
I guess I don't know that much about Val Kilmer.
I have
There's
no
this,
idea if that's just a wolf thing.
there's
I have
this,
no idea
like,
if it's-
Chuck-
It seems like the kind of thing that Val Kilmer does.
Sometimes
there's a
Wolf
Chuck
had
Klosterman.
things sometimes where there would be
Yeah.
like more or less plausible. Like sometimes you'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like absolutely
There's a-
not.
there's a-
But then
yeah.
certain things you'd be like, I feel like you maybe George Thorogood did steal Bad to the Bone from
There's a
I feel like I think that might be true. I think that one might be true. I think like the like I told Jimmy Carter about Bin Laden in the fucking 80s. Like not sure about that kind of stuff.
Wolf's like Johnny Royale from the Beastie Boys song.
He's so many
Perfect.
things, but sometimes he hits one, and I'm like, that kind of rings true for me.
Val Kilmer is nuts. Like there's
And that's always
there's
been.
a Chuck Klosterman essay where he like goes and hangs out with Val Kilmer like on his land in Wyoming or something, and I don't remember much of it other than Val Kilmer is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So I believe it.
Yeah.
He's probably got a weird face blemish that he's self-conscious about, and he's probably hard to work with.
Well, not working now.
So we got like 20 minutes left. Do we want to talk about the rest of this
Scylla?
chapter?
So, yeah, tell us what you were going to talk about, Jen, before I...
No, I wasn't. I was trying to like move it.
Is this the chapter where we find out that Scylla is like an 8-year-old girl?
No, I don't
She's
think so.
Or is that at the end
She's
of the
12.
last book?
She's like 12.
Right, but like we find out that she's a child.
I think that we already know that.
That might have just been at the end of Lake.
Good cat stuff over
Big
here.
cat stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a cat cam.
Cat
just
cam.
to
We should put a GoPro on.
yeah, just have a GoPro for the cat.
Yeah. Little mouse.
Nikki lost his toy under the stove.
Under the stove
He
is
does
like
that.
kryptonite for animals.
We get the salt of the earth fisherman who understands exactly what's going on
Yeah.
because he is religious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, he's
And
on the
efficient.
lake all the fucking time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's changed him, clearly.
We got the Return of the Talus. Right? I get. Is it a different Talus or is it the same one?
Just the talents.
No, it's the talus. The Blood's talus gets put in the.
It puts it.
in
Yeah,
the
it gets
lake
put in the
temple.
tunnel. Yeah, and then it, right.
Wait, but
it's-
Silk's
but
not all
killed
the
it.
way down there. Already down there. Silk's already down there. He killed the Talus.
Yeah.
Blood's Talus. Didn't that happen already?
Right. Yeah. So this is a different one.
Oh,
Has to
okay.
be a different one because he killed it, and he's very upset about it.
And then Chenille's just like naked for this whole
And sunburnt.
naked,
Brutally
and,
sunburnt.
Yeah, super sunburnt.
And 12.
Well, no, because Scylla's left her.
Oh,
Or no, that's in the next chapter, right? So Scylla's still in her
No,
at this point.
she's left at this point. But
Okay.
Yeah, I think at the beginning she's there, and she leaves in the middle. Somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, Chenille's like, I gotta integrate myself into mainframe. Like, yeah, like, gotta do that.
Right, because there's a monitor there
Mhm,
that they
mhm.
find, and so she's like, "All right, peace out."
Yeah, and then Chenille comes back. She's like, how come you stay?
But when Oreb says she throw.
Where's that?
Oh
yeah.
2%.
29. The book.
2%.
That's what it's called on mine.
That works.
Is throw okay? So she throw. Is he is throwing like the god leaving?
Mm.
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 Or is there another word here that's like phonetically being said?
I don't think that happens with.
No,
Oreb.
that's the catechist.
Yeah.
Tick.
Right. So it should be throw
Are you
is the
tick?
right word.
Are you tick? Are you tick? Are you tick?
Where's Misha? Is he shy?
Yeah.
What was Chenille doing at the end of the last
He's
book?
upstairs somewhere.
I mean, she was
Did
she
she
was
leave for the
Bounding onto the boat.
yeah she
And
was,
doing crazy somersaults and shit.
she's doing whatever Scylla felt like.
Yeah,
She
like
was wildin'.
directing the crew members.
Yeah,
right?
telling everybody what to do, and she's doing that here too.
Yeah,
she's like,
we
down
enter.
sail, loose that, you idiot, drop the yard. Like she knows all of these like sailing terms. She's like, she's the captain.
Sailing's fun.
Aye, aye, Scald and Scylla. I thought it was really interesting. and This is This is in the next chapter, which I read this morning. But after Scylla has left Chenille, she's talking about how it feels to be possessed by these gods, and she describes it as she's being. It's like she is a donkey that is being ridden, where you can the donkey can resist it, but it'll kind of get beaten into submission, and then it becomes an extension of the rider's will. And so she was like, I didn't like it. Like, this was bad. This was not a fun time for her to be experiencing.
Second instance of
Because it was Scylla.
Which is a description of cybernetics in the original, right? Cybernetics comes from kybernetes, which is the person who banged the drum to keep people in time when they were rowing a ship.
Well,
So they were possessing all those people and forcing them to act in concert.
Oh.
And the information traveling is
Clocking is a big part of, I mean, all that.
Yeah.
Computers and word clock is how a lot of that stuff works.
I feel lucky to be this age. I feel like I've lucked out so much with technology. Like, old enough to kind of see it come in, have a little fun with it at the beginning, not be completely lost when it was important not to be lost.
Yeah.
And now, gonna sail out of here, just without fucking giving a goddamn shit about any metaverse or NFT or any of that stuff. And it's not gonna hurt me to not know that stuff. Just perfect timing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel I've had those thoughts many
We
times.
got to play probably the best video games, you know, like get
That's true.
entertained off our
that
asses.
didn't like completely like
Yeah.
grab you by the brain and like just carry you away.
Ryan did play World of Warcraft for a while.
That's true. I even got that experience, like just enough
I forgot
enough
about
to
that.
know how that feels and how great it is. And
I
how I
mean,
never
I'm
wanted to do
pleased that technology has gotten to the point where I can just go home and write about. Somebody's paying me $100 to write about a room that they found in their house.
Wow.
Technology is helping me lead a life that I would not be able to lead otherwise.
Yeah.
And part of it, I guess, is we've been able to see things most things, like right before they became so successful that they were completely taken over by people that are obsessed with success. So we
Dynamic values,
yeah.
right? Like piercing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw the quality time for these things when like there was when something's a labor of love and there's no reason to do it other than that like you want to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you want to do that particular thing.
Got a taste of the Wild West iteration of the internet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then everything's moved into the place now where it's like the only reason any of it exists is to maximize somebody's return on investment. And you don't get into the business without
Collect and sell your information.
which is maximizing them, like
Yeah.
squeezing every last bit of money you can get out of a thing.
Maybe it would have been good to be like born 10 years prior to like when we were born.
I would have liked
Maybe
that
that
like
would've been
early
cool if we could've
'90s
curated
like
our
freak
experience.
I
vibe.
wonder.
Like
I mean,
just to like cash in a little bit more on like the functioning world of the 80s and the 90s. Like maybe that would have been like a little bit less dystopian.
It's kind of a trap though.
I don't think it was. I think that we are
I mean,
apologizing
yeah.
for functioning it.
No. I mean, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, if I could, like, wave a magic wand.
Yeah, but
try
I think
another
it's
one.
good in a way to like come up in your early adult times in the like dystopia of the crashing economy. Cause I don't know. Like I think about my brother who's like total Gen Xer.
Hmm.
And it's hard to not, I feel like it's much harder for people that age group to not just be fully just bought in still.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So they're a little
You
bit
know what
less,
I mean?
a little bit less critical.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's important in any conversation where we're talking about how evil or bad technology is to recognize it is an extension of original sin, going back to the conversation we had before.
Mm-hmm.
That, like...
The technology itself isn't evil. It's
Yeah.
the way that we're like relating to it.
No, there's no such thing as evil. And
Right,
what
right.
we're doing is going through a process that hurts, and we don't like ourselves right now because of technology. But, like, we have to, like, this is part of... If there is good in the world, this is part of us getting to it.
Well, I think it's debatable whether this isn't like a phase. I think it's debatable whether this is I feel like you're kind of inching towards a perspective that says, well, we're growing, and in the future there'll be more technology, and we'll get through a growth spurt, but there's going to be more.
No, there might... We might... I mean, look at Dune. In Dune, there's a whole bunch of technology, and the technology makes us have the Butlerian Jihad and outlaw technology. That's another way that it could go. I'm just saying that... And I
Or
mean,
that,
I'm
like-
with you. The technology is making my life horrible, and it's destroying democracy, and all of this stuff. I totally agree with you. And sometimes it's nice to step back and be like, oh, this is a process, and I'm in the part of the process where it looks like things suck.
Yes.
The growth.
But it's also whatever
growth
part of the
spurt,
process you're in, you kind of are going to be like, well, these are the things that are wrong now.
Right.
So-
It's something that's not articulated, but we could be at the end of a phase of technology, and not like there'll be another phase of technology, but the next phase will not involve technology.
Well, the thing is,
I mean, it's
like,
always going to involve
practically
technology.
how is it
It's just-
going to expand? Like we're going to start running out of like natural resources to make
We did.
technology out of
think
it.
we
We'll just
did.
find them from space.
Well, I mean, somehow
We blow up the moon and we
Right.
take all of its stuff.
Well, technology
Right.
is also a bigger word than we're really recognizing. Like, religion is a technology.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Let's call religion a technique.
Well, yeah, it's,
That's fine, but there is it's also a technology.
Technology is
It's technology.
is any process that is designed to achieve some kind of outcome.
Okay.
And
What
so
word can
it's-
we use for post-industrial revolution application of machines?
What?
Like, what word can we? Like, when I say technology,
Why
what I
do you
really
do
mean.
post-industrial?
You mean machines?
You mean,
But I
And I'm just saying.
specifically mean after the Industrial Revolution. Like, there's machines before the Industrial Revolution, but the relationship between them and humanity is nothing like what it is afterwards.
Right, yeah.
And it's that relationship. Like, I'm not against tech. I mean, I'm not like, and I don't think technology will disappear. What I think is that it will return to a pre-industrial revolution state of relationship with humanity, where it's a tool that sits over there that you use when you need to use that tool, and it's not like the guiding light of.
You really should read Dune.
I have read it.
You've never.
I read the
what?
I just read the first one,
Oh.
and I just the thing is like, I
Dude, the last 3 are.
Wait,
like,
can I cut
oh.
in for a second? Because Tim Cabrera just told me the other day that he just read brief summaries of the Dune books and then went right to the 5th book.
Nice.
That's the best one. 5th one's the best one.
And I'm
It's-
like,
it's-
I just think that a lot of the philosophy in it is exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, and I probably will do the Tim Cabrera thing, except I'll also read the summary of the 5th book, and not the book itself, just because.
I don't think that Tim Cabrera did a good thing.
Books
I think that
need
you can get
jokes.
so much out of this book if you actually read it.
Yeah.
Well, I
Dude's worth
he
reading.
Why
had a lot
don't
of
you
points.
watch
He
him?
had a lot of
because
stuff
I
to say
don't
about
think
it
there's
that was
enough
pretty on
jokes
point.
in the first one.
It's a way to go.
It is a pretty humorless,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
I
true.
can't.
Other
I
than
can't
there being a
hang with
character named
fiction
Duncan
that,
Idaho.
that isn't fun.
which is funny.
But by book 4, it gets funny.
I would say that. Yes, that is exactly what I was going to say. Once you open up book 4, you immediately get the joke.
It's
that's been
worth
played on
it.
you.
It's fucking worth it, man.
But you have to read the setup of 3 books to get the punchline of 4.
Honestly, you can probably
Hey,
get by with just
the jokes
reading
of
the
the
first
gods
one.
don't
I
kill.
like.
Yeah, I read the first one.
That is
Children
exactly
of God
what Dune is
Emperor,
about.
or not God Emperor. What's the?
You've read
Messiah?
You've read all 6.
No, I've only read the first 3.
See, fuck
Yeah.
all of you guys who want to weigh in on this unless you've read all 6.
Yeah,
That's
Messiah.
not
I
like
just-
being
I
a
didn't-
person.
I'm
so
saying that the
important.
second trilogy sounds way more fun.
It's awesome.
It is so much more fun.
Yeah.
I hate that. I just fucking hate
Is
that.
it all Frank Herbert? Or is it?
Yes.
go into
No.
some-
You don't.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
one-
I've
we
not
don't
read
discuss
Brian
Brian.
Herbert
We
and I
don't
never
just.
would.
We don't
Yeah,
discuss
once Brian
Brian.
gets involved.
No. We don't
Who's Brian
discuss
Herbert?
Brian.
The
Who
Who
son.
is-
the fuck
who
is
is
Brian
that?
Herbert?
No, yeah, I see what you're saying.
He's the fucking pissant.
Brian, what?
I don't know. I don't know what you're. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's a pissant son. He's a no good.
There are
freeloading
6
asshole.
Dune books.
No,
I
Chris
don't-
Tolkien.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Are you more of a fan of Chris Tolkien?
I mean, I feel bad for Chris Tolkien.
I have a problem. I cannot trust an author who's not funny. I'm deeply suspicious that they're like.
But you have a. Okay,
That's
fine.
I read the first one.
it's
The-
fine.
I
You
said-
have
I-
to read all of them.
my problem is I can completely see what you're saying, and I never would have thought of it. I don't. I mean, all authors are lying to me. Like that's what they're doing. They're
That
telling me a
hard line
story.
about it.
I don't need to trust them.
When it comes to like reading for enjoyment, like if
You like humor.
yeah, or like if there's not a reason for me to read a book that isn't like I've got some other plan
It's an interesting
involved.
thought. I mean, I've never thought about it that way. Maybe.
But
I'm the
it's
same
just
way.
it becomes a thing where it becomes me versus that author at a certain point where I'm like, I start to feel like we're not like we don't have anything to learn from each other
Yeah.
because this person.
Yeah, but I feel
isn't
like if
funny.
you got to the 4th book, you would not think that anymore.
I know
Don't you think-
it'll be a
don't you think you
slog
wouldn't think
to
that
get
anymore?
this.
If
Frank
you're not-
Herbert challenge.
I am not going to speculate what Ryan would say.
You know, that's a very good,
Right.
fair
Yeah.
place to leave things. Yeah.
But I'm the dumbest, and I would think that would make me the most predictable
Part of
of the wolf.
the reason I would never speculate what you would think is that you insist things like that. I think that's an absurd thing to say.
It's an absurd thing to say.
I mean, I'm certainly the
That's not
least
absurd.
educated.
Yeah, that's
Is
absurd.
that true?
That's absurd.
You've read the most.
That's absolutely
Definitely.
insane.
Johan says, "You think Dune isn't funny? Can you swim? Have you ever considered the nature of humor?"
That's a very good point.
Yeah. He said, "I read the first Dune and loved it, and also have this suspicion that leads me to not read the rest." So.
Oh, wait a minute. Halfway through Dune, you get a character who's a spy with his wife, and they have they keep talking in this thing where there's all these in between everything they say, and that turns out to be a secret code that they're revealing everything to each other through. That's hilarious.
It's okay.
And their name is Fenring.
Yeah. I think it's hilarious.
I mean, the dude's name being Duncan Idaho is pretty.
Yeah, Duncan Idaho. That's a joke.
Funny.
And he's the only one that lives for billions of years.
That's true.
Yeah,
Duncan.
the lip stained. What's his name? The Mentat.
Mentat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The Dukes of Safu.
Yeah, like they're all ridiculous.
What do they? The Samuda drug, like the music drug. What is?
Oh,
it?
yeah.
What the fuck is that? They never mention it ever again.
Oh, the most wonderful food you can eat is something that has been bred from pigs and slugs. And
Yeah.
that's their most beautiful delicacy.
The
slig.
Could be your favorite book.
You know what I mean when I say humor. I mean, these things are like, interesting and funny in their way, but you don't feel like you're with a funny guy.
I
just don't always need to feel
I do in the fourth book.
There are definitely.
Wait, let's just spoil it. What happens in the fourth book?
It jumps 10,000 years.
And it just turns into a whole other fucking
It just
thing.
switches up.
It jumps 10,000 years and you meet a group of people who are being chased by something called D-wolves.
I guess it's dick wolves?
Exactly!
It's like it takes a hard left turn, it just turns into like flying dicks. It's nothing to do with the spice or the Atreides. It's just dicks in space.
A giant dick has taken over the
That is
entire
true.
universe.
It's
But it
true,
is connected
a
to the
dick with
Atreides.
a human head.
Dune 4 is just like, yeah, we're just going a different direction with the whole.
Yeah, I don't think they're
The
gonna
problem
make
with the
that movie.
universe is that a giant civil war was perpetrated by a huge penis that won't die. And it knows everything that everybody's doing everywhere. How do we hide from the penis?
Isn't that the question nowadays?
How do we hide from the?
How do we
penis?
hide from the penis?
can't.
Yeah, I've never tried to find the joke in Dune before, and now I think it's hilarious all of a sudden.
It's the nature of humor.
We
There
live,
you
in
go.
we live in a world of our own creation.
Yeah.
Clearly, you don't think Dune is funny because you're just not funny.
I don't think it's funny.
That-
Ooh. I never thought it was funny. I just
would be
now
my
realize it is. I was wrong.
opinion on it if it wasn't me. I think that's probably exactly what I would say. I'm projecting my own lack of funniness.
I think maybe anything can be funny if you just say it in this tone of voice.
If you say it in that tone of voice, definitely.
That's true.
There
Yeah,
we go.
I mean, most science fiction, if you say it in that Connor voice, then it's gonna be funny.
Definitely.
Dune memes are funny where people are like taking a picture of themselves watching the Dune movie on their phone. They're like, just as Dallas Villeneuve intended. Like, yes. Dune is the way it was meant to be seen. Your little screen.
On the bus.
Yeah, there you
He
go.
did have that quote that was like,
Yeah.
watching it on anything
It's
other
like,
than
it's
IMAX.
it's like driving a
basically.
speedboat in a bathtub, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I did that. I watched it on HBO in my basement.
He's
While
it's
stoned.
fine.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, not my basement.
I want to see.
I
I've been
did.
holding off because I want to see it in a theater, but
Well,
maybe I'm gonna have to give up on that dream.
I
The
wasn't
Parkway's
gonna
a good place
see
to
it.
because it's empty anyway.
Is it still playing?
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if it's still playing.
I went to see it at the Senator.
I wasn't gonna
Oh.
see it. I was planning on not seeing it because I thought I was gonna hate it so much, and I went because John Eaton was like, "I bought you guys tickets," and I was like,
No
"Okay,
choice.
all right, I'll go." Like I'm not.
What
gonna,
did you think of it?
I'm not that dogmatic where I'll be like, "I'm not going." He's like, "I bought you guys tickets. We're going to the IMAX."
Yeah, yeah.
What did
And
you
we
think
were
of
like, okay. Well, first of all, the IMAX is so fucking loud.
That's what I
It
heard.
hurts you.
Oh,
I
it's
wish I
such
had-
a burn.
I wish I had fucking earplugs. That's my first thing I have to say. It was so loud. It
I
was
heard
like
that.
painful.
Someone
The
else said
IMAX
that.
is crazy. Don't go there.
I have not.
But I never would have if someone wasn't like, I bought you a ticket. I'll see you in White Marsh at 11:30 on Saturday.
I just think there was
But
that.
I liked it. I actually liked it.
There's that one amazing scene where
There's
they're,
some
they're
things that really drive
showing
me
up
nuts
for the
about it.
negotiation, and it's just like reaction shots of like this person, this person, this person, and I could be like, oh, I know exactly this part in the book and what each of those people thought as we looked at them on the camera, even though it wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
And so in that way, I thought it was really cool.
It was really, really for people who've already read it.
Yes,
It's
it was.
impossible.
But I've heard that people who haven't said that they could
I've
Yeah,
heard it
people
both.
seem to be
I've heard
into
it.
it.
I've heard it both ways.
I've heard a lot of people
Kenny-
say there's a problem where it's all white people and all the people from the Maghreb that they hired were just bit players, and I'm like, yes, because this is the story where the
Yeah.
white people show up. Wait till next
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next one
And
is
you
going
can
to be
all-
wild.
Yeah.
But I didn't like. Yeah, there's the thing that.
Yeah, but see, you're trying to connect the form and the content, like the surface and what it means, and those things don't go together anymore. You know, the criticism about white people in movie is not defeated by saying that there's a meaningful reason.
Oh, I don't fool myself into thinking that criticism of white people in movies is defeated.
Right.
That
not.
wins. And
Yeah, because it
whatever.
stops right there. It's like it is about the surface. There's no other thing that applies.
Right.
You know, there's no other relevant information. The surface is the thing.
Well, on this note, I'm going to stop the stream.
Bye.
Talking
Okay,
about doing
bye.
that. Goodbye, Johan.
There's too many white people on the street.
Shut down! Shut down!
See you in a couple of weeks.
It won't be us though.
Or we won't be white.
Oh.
Ooh. I don't know. All right, well.
Oh, goodness.